What is up, homies? Welcome back to another episode of the CzechXicans podcast from Heroes Reforged. This is a little bit of a special episode because in the coming weeks, most of us are going to be gone.
We out. 2/3 of the team will be gone.
Literally tomorrow,
jet-setting.
after the day of recording this, Hector is getting on a flight and going to Australia.
Good day.
How long are you going to be there?
For 11 days.
Yeah. 11
Don't
days.
stalk me. And then when I get back, you're jet setting off
No, in the middle of you being gone.
to. You're jet setting off to
Europe.
Europe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't stalk
And
him.
I'll be gone for 2 weeks, so you're going to be the only one here.
I'll be running the ship, baby, not making any content whatsoever.
So it's going to
But
be interesting.
Hang on, we
Yeah.
do have a bunch of stuff banked that's going to be coming out. Fun stuff that we've been watching TV shows and reacting to, and then we have when's the cooking special coming out?
Don't ask me.
Why not?
Because I became ready for my own trip, so I got a lot
Okay,
going
that's
on.
fine. All right. Well
At
then,
some point in June.
relax. Hey, when Adam gets back, or
Yeah.
before Adam
Maybe
leaves,
before. We'll
whatever,
Maybe
whatever.
before Adam leaves, who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
It's a
I'm
very
gone.
special one. We want to take our time with it. So, yeah, it's fine.
But we have some stuff that we're going to be doling out,
Yeah,
releasing
I
over the
mean-
next month.
We watched so much stuff. We watched the entire first season of House of the Dragon.
yeah.
We watched all 4 Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah.
We watched
Yeah.
Spider-Verse. We watched
Yep.
Batman and Batman Returns.
So we got YouTube reactions coming soon,
Yeah.
and so-
Patreon stuff. Like
Mhm.
there's quite a bit to watch.
Mhm,
Quite a bit to watch for people. And then as soon as I think you guys are probably going to end up doing the first episode of Secret Invasion without me.
Probably.
But as soon as I get back the day that the second episode drops.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'll get back and then we'll do a recording of the second episode and then
Right
we'll be back to business. But it's going to be like a little bit of a chaotic June for us because trips are overlapping and stuff. So
Look, we're calling this the mid-season break.
There we go.
Mid-season
And-
break.
And then we get back July. That's Comic-Con, baby. We're
Yeah.
hitting it hard.
We're hitting
Yeah.
it
We have
hard.
plans. We're going to be in San Diego. This time
yeah.
for real. Not unlike Star Wars Celebration when we were
Yeah.
like, no, we can't.
But also-
Unlike Comic-Con last year.
Last year, Comic-Con was a bust, too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
I got
we had a
COVID.
lot of stuff happening.
Mhm.
So
But
we
this
all couldn't
time-
be there.
I'm staying at home 2 weeks before Comic-Con. I'm serious. So I'm
Just
not
to
gonna
make
get-
sure.
I
Just to
believe
make
it.
sure.
not
Yeah.
gonna get COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you want to see all that stuff, definitely check out the Patreon. All that stuff is
Yeah.
on there. Plus, like so many things that we've been watching outside of that.
And you know what else is, in case people aren't aware too, on our Patreon channel, is it a channel, website? What do we call it?
Just Patreon.
Patreon.
Our
Just on
Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah.
We have, because people have asked about this the past year or so, we also have like YouTube or cut down edited versions of our,
Mhm.
so it's like early access. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what eventually will be on
Yeah.
YouTube. So if you're like, well, I would check out the Patreon, but I just don't have time to sit and watch an hour show with you guys
Right.
and watch a video where I'm watching it along with you guys. And there'll be moments where just the three of us are like, I don't have time for that. Give me the, the
Meat and
the meat
potatoes.
stuff,
Potatoes, the good
meat and
stuff.
potatoes.
Yeah.
That's also on
Mhm.
Patreon, and our patrons get that early access
Yeah.
before. I don't know when Game
Before
of Thrones.
That's a
is
new
getting
thing.
on YouTube.
That's
I
a
don't
new
know.
thing, by the way.
I don't know.
Yeah, that isn't your thing.
Yeah.
So
That's-
yeah,
We're trying to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
but-
there's also some like potential experimental stuff with Patreon. We haven't decided whether or not we're going to implement it, but one of the cool things also that we started doing that they gave us access to in the last couple months is your billing doesn't automatically renew on the 1st. So if you sign up on the
Thank you.
15th,
Mhm,
it won't
mhm.
renew on the 1st. It'll renew on the 15th of the
Right,
following month
right.
because we noticed that we had
Yeah.
some drop offs at the beginning of the month, and it makes sense because people have a lot of bills at the beginning of the month they need
Yeah.
to pay. So it's hopefully I think it'll make people feel more comfortable
Yeah.
to want to join and stick
Yeah.
around because the 15th or the 20th might work better for a lot of
I
people.
think the first cycle of that is already run through. So
Mhm.
most patrons should already have
Like-
known that by now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
for
yeah,
new
yeah.
people,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's it. That's
Mhm.
that's what's up.
So
That's the
guys,
good
this
stuff.
is our last episode for like a month.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
So last episode we promised that we were going to finish all the patron questions that we did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
There's
good.
like a lot of them, so I feel
Mhm.
like we should focus on that first, and then we'll get into like a little spoiler, non-spoiler
Okay.
review of.
Questions
we watched
first?
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse
Oh,
tonight.
man.
Holy
Man.
shit.
I only have
Man.
one bad thing to say about it, and I think it's the same thing you're saying. And wait until we get to that.
We tried really hard to get into as many screenings as we could before we were all going to leave. And our hope was that in this episode we'd be able to do The Flash and Transformers and Across the Spider-Verse, but
Yeah.
some of those screenings are not happening. They didn't happen before this recording.
Yeah.
And because you're leaving literally tomorrow, we cannot. There's the only night we can record. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
reviews for those movies will probably come as like we start coming back, and you know, by the end of July, by the end of June and stuff. So I'm super stoked to see Transformers in the Flash, and I was super excited to watch this movie.
Quick review, because I'm the only one that saw it. The new Little Mermaid, pretty good.
Oh,
Oh, you did see
Yeah,
it? Okay.
and go see it in 3D. 3D, pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Turns out James Cameron was right. 3D underwater shit is cool.
It's cool.
So any movie that deals with underwater
should
and
be
it's in 3D, it
Yeah.
should be.
It should be in 3D.
It's like Finding Nemo. It's like cool. It's
Okay.
you feel like you're underwater.
Give us what you thought was cool about it,
Mm-hmm.
and if there was anything that didn't work. Because I'm very curious. I haven't heard. I'm staying off of Twitter.
Are you a
by the
big
way.
Little Mermaid animated fan?
Little Mermaid was my first crush as a kid.
Well, then you should go see it.
Probably.
Here's what worked for me.
Yeah.
Halle Bailey
Mhm.
as Ariel,
Mhm.
she's like wonderful.
Mhm.
She's got some pipes. She has a hell of a voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, very funny.
Mhm.
Had
Okay.
a couple of moments that were like genuinely. My girlfriend and I were
Spooky?
like, not spooky, but like funny. We're like,
Oh,
this
okay.
is great because Ursula's such like a, she's so
Over the top.
over the top, baby.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
really fun, like delicious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What worked for me? Sebastian was very funny.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
David Diggs
Oh,
from
okay.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
is playing.
Okay.
And he's rumored to be the front runner for The Thing in the
Mhm.
Fantastic Four movie, which is awesome.
Interesting. Okay.
I think he's Jewish, which is like the only thing I care about The Thing. Whoever they cast as The Thing, I'm like, he's got to be Jewish. He's got to be a Jewish person.
Okay.
Anyway, he was really funny. And when the designs came out for Sebastian, everyone was
Yeah.
like, that's like because obviously the animated character Sebastian Flounder, the non-human,
Mhm.
Scuttle,
They look like cute Disney
they're
characters.
appealing.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you see the live action still and
Yeah.
like the flounder fish that's voiced by Jacob Tremblay,
Yeah.
you see these like photorealistic animals and you're like, that's But then you watch the movie and like the way they move, the way they are animated,
Yeah.
plus the voice acting, plus
Yeah.
the writing, it's fun. So if you're a big fan and you haven't seen the original Little Mermaid in a minute, rewatch
I
that.
just saw it a day ago.
Then go to the go. Take your wife, go
Yeah.
see the new one, go
Mhm.
see it in 3D.
Mhm.
It was a fun time. Do I think it's better than the original animated movie? I don't think so.
Okay.
Basically, the things that like don't work for me are it was updated in certain ways, like enough, but
story wise.
yes,
Okay.
but it's still basically the original movie.
Okay.
And I still would have liked even more of a. I'll give you an example. I think one of my favorite, pitches for the live action Disney movies was Maleficent because they're like, here's Sleeping Beauty from the
Mhm,
perspective
mhm.
of the villain.
Right. Right.
And
right.
it's Angelina Jolie. I was like, that's a slam dunk
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah.
I wish the execution was better.
Yeah.
But I love that idea. So I'm like, it's not that I wanted like more from like Ursula, but I'm like, if there were to be more changes to the original animated
Mhm.
version of the story, I think I would have been down for it. Or if there
Okay.
were more to say.
Mhm.
Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Like they still
Yeah,
have
yeah,
some things in there and some strong points of view in the movie, but overall, like my girlfriend and I were like, "Oh, this is good."
Mhm.
Okay.
I thought it's not an amazing, but I thought it was better than it was like gonna be. Again, compared to like Lion King, which I didn't love, Aladdin, which I thought was doo doo,
Yeah.
and so disappointed that
Yeah.
they let my brown dude Aladdin down. You're gonna give it to Guy
Yeah.
Ritchie? Really? You're gonna give it to Guy Ritchie?
Yeah. Of
Oi,
course.
you're gonna give Street Rat to Guy. Anyway,
Do you have
Mermaid was fun.
Do you have your ranking of the live action?
I don't.
On your,
I
you don't.
I don't. I need to figure out what the category because that goes all the way back to like, are we talking Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland? Does that
No.
count? Are we talking Glenn Close 101 Dalmatians? Does that count? That's a live action
That's what
remake.
I would think it would.
Yeah, so
Actually,
I need to look at the
it
whole
does.
thing and maybe I'll do a ranking. But I do have a Little Mermaid franchise ranking. I don't know if you care about that.
No, I want to see.
You want to know where
Here-
Little
here's the-
Mermaid 2
here's the
Return to the
thing.
Sea falls?
Here's the thing.
How about Little Mermaid 3 Ariel's
No,
Beginning? I've
I
watched
want-
both
I
of them.
want you
They're
to
not
rank
good.
Aladdin, The Return
Why
of
do you do this to
Jafar,
yourself?
and Prince of Thieves.
I should do that. I should do
and
the
then
Aladdin
Bambi 1,
franchise.
2, and 3.
I think there's only 2.
There's
Bambi-
got to be a 3.
Bambi 2 was dope.
I didn't see Bambi.
I
2.
didn't like Cinderella 2, but Cinderella 3 was pretty good.
We got to
I'm
see
talking about
those
the
straight to
direct-to-videos.
VHS
Yep.
releases
Yep.
ranked because I just watched The King of Thieves and it's actually pretty rad.
Is it? I
The
don't.
Aladdin
I
King of
rewatched
Thieves is pretty rad.
Return of Jafar.
That
and
one's
it's
horrible.
bad.
Horrible. Absolutely
Yeah.
horrible. You need to. Okay, you know how we've been
no,
hyping
no.
up animation to you,
Yeah.
Adam? Don't watch these.
Yeah.
These are bad.
These are dookie.
So, did you ever watch like you know how Aladdin had a Saturday morning cartoon? Did you ever watch that?
He does not
Okay.
know this. Little
So
Mermaid
they
had one
had,
too.
yeah, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. There was also like
Really?
a Dumb and Dumber. There was a Mask Saturday morning
I
cartoon.
love The Mask.
Okay, so do you remember how crappy that animation was?
Kind of.
They
yeah.
did that for Aladdin.
Right.
So they
Oh,
like
wow.
took the genie.
Right.
Actually, the voice of the genie in Return of Jafar is the dude who does Homer.
Dan Castellaneta.
Yeah, Dan
Oh,
really? Castellanetto. Yeah,
But they brought
he-
back Robin Williams for the
for
third
the
one.
third one, and he brings
Oh,
the
really?
heat again.
Yeah,
so
he does.
Wow.
they gave the movie Aladdin 2, The Return of Jafar,
Yeah.
a $0 budget.
Yeah, it's rough.
Didn't
man.
hire any of the voice
Such
actors
a
except for
bummer.
Gilbert Godfrey.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
he kind of carries that terrible movie.
Kind of carries that terrible
Yeah.
movie. And then they were just like, Jafar comes back, right?
There's a
And
whole dude.
it's bad.
Honestly, real talk. I would not be opposed. You know how we're watching old movies.
Mhm.
I am not watching all those. It's fucking
Hang
No,
on.
no, don't
Hang
watch
on.
those. Don't waste your
Hang
time.
on a second. I still believe that it is a awesome journey to go through and actually watch every one of the Disney animated movies, starting with Snow White.
Oh,
from
the original.
1937.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even
Yeah.
to go through the history and to like to as an adult to watch Snow White, to watch
Mhm.
Pinocchio,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Watch
yeah.
the
Like,
evolution.
watch the evolution, to watch
Yeah.
Bambi, which you think is like, okay, it's cutesy. Bambi's
Yeah.
like badass. That
Bam-
movie's fucking dark.
Listen.
Like not just the like there are moments in each of these movies.
Yeah.
Pinocchio's fucked up. You guys been to Disneyland?
yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what's
Pinocchio's
great?
crazy.
I haven't seen most of them.
That's what I'm saying. What if we, in the same way that we're like,
It's-
a new Indiana Jones movie's coming out, let's watch all the indies, or you
Right.
hadn't seen Batman and Batman Returns,
Yeah,
great
yeah.
excuse to go
Mhm.
back and watch those.
Yeah.
What if we eventually just started to cross off that list? Because
I
once
think
we
that's a
get
good idea.
once we get into like the 40s and
Yeah.
50s during World War II, they also had no budget.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Walt Disney, fucking colonialists, started going to Latin America.
Yeah.
And they
to-
were like,
yeah.
"Saludos amigos," and
Yep.
that's a fun
Mhm.
one.
Tres Caballeros.
We gotta start. We should watch some of those.
Actually, I love Tres Caballeros. That
Yeah.
was like the VHS I had on repeat as a
Yeah.
kid, right? So that was like my
Yeah.
introduction because I had never seen a Disney movie that talked about Mexico, and I was
Yeah.
obsessed with it because I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh my god, Panchito's the best."
Yeah, there's some
but
good stuff there.
it's interesting to watch how incredible the animation is
Yes.
for the time.
It's
It's-
history class.
I just rewatched Cinderella, and it's just insane.
it's
like
film history. Cinderella's great.
Yeah, rewatching like the animation techniques and like everything
So-
they did to make that movie look absolutely beautiful.
Before we
Yeah.
started
Insane.
recording, Adam said that he's never seen the original Little Mermaid animated.
At least
film.
I don't remember watching
Sure, and
That's
maybe you
fine.
did,
it. Yeah.
but again, even when I watched it as a kid, you don't see everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
And then, especially after you've gotten older, and like you and I, Augustine, we
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
studied animation, and you go back and revisit some of those, and you're like, oh my god, they're incredible films.
Yeah.
Look at all that they're doing. It's so great. Yeah, I think going through the list of all of like the Disney animated feature films,
Yeah.
which their most recent one was Strange World.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're up to number 53, 54, something like that.
Yeah.
Like I forget what number they're on. And the new one that's coming out is going to be called Wish, which looks
Oh,
really
that's
good. Anyway,
right.
I'm sorry, I'm boring you, Adam.
No,
the
no,
point
no,
is,
no.
No,
Well,
I'm turning
no, no.
my sound on my watch off.
and I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
we have to introduce you to the master, Glenn Keane, dude.
yes,
Glenn Keane has put out some of the best animated
Didn't we
things
watch something
ever.
from Beauty and the Beast?
I don't
I,
know.
was
I think
about-
so. I think
Maybe.
so.
Right.
And here's the other thing too. The reason I like actually watching them in release order from like Snow White to up through the decades,
Mhm.
because we could go and watch an animated movie like Frozen, which I think is great. If the three of us watched Frozen and then you go back and try to watch like Dumbo,
It doesn't
kind of
hold up.
rough.
Yeah.
You're like, ugh,
Yeah.
this isn't
Yeah.
that impressive. But then you
Yeah.
remember, no, dude, they're drawing every page.
yeah, literally
So
animated
Yeah.
on one.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
Animated
I
on
like
one.
the film history.
Yeah.
I think that would be a worthwhile thing to, at times when we're not busy watching other stuff, throw some of that in there.
Yeah, yeah. That's
There,
not a
it's
bad
all on
idea.
Disney Plus. It
It's not a
could be
bad
if it's
idea.
appealing to you guys. Let us know in the comments if it's something where if you're watching this right now and you're like, I never saw a Sword in the Stone or whatever. Like watching
Listen,
along with us could be
This will
fun.
give us some good stuff to do during the writer's strike.
There you go.
Because there's not a lot of shit coming out,
Yeah,
guys.
And that
right.
answers our first question. What are you going to do during the writers and director's strike and actor
Yeah.
strike?
It- and I think I would also be interested in watching. I know not all of them have been remade in live action, but to watch the live action counterparts to see how they hold up.
That's what I'm saying. As soon as you start getting into, because eventually, what's her name? Rachel Zegler. She's
Mhm.
playing Snow White.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's coming out next year or the year after or something.
something like that.
Really curious about that. But once you get through, like, I never saw the Tim Burton Dumbo. I still
I
haven't
didn't
seen
either.
that.
There's a
I-
Tim Burton Dumbo.
Yeah, Michael
came
Keaton,
out
Danny
like
DeVito are in it.
2019.
Colin
Yeah.
Farrell's in it.
Apparently it's pretty. Apparently,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if we the three of us decided let's start watching these Disney movies, and then we hit one that has a live action remake,
Yeah.
we should watch that too.
Yeah.
But we're not
Really
doing the
compare.
straight to VHS releases.
No.
Right.
No.
No.
Unless
Whoa.
Adam wants to.
Quick question.
If we
One-
watch,
One of my favorite Disney movies of all time is Lion King and a Half. Are we watching
Yeah.
Lion King and a Half after Lion King 1?
it's extra credit.
Okay.
If we watch Peter Pan and Adam goes, I love that. Do they ever return to Neverland? We could be like, yeah, dude, they do.
It's called Return to Neverland.
Yeah, but it's not mandatory. It's not essential.
Yeah, which live action movie do you pick though?
If any of them have done a remake.
Yeah,
Peter Pan. Peter Pan.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
and
You guys
Wendy,
realize most
Hook.
of these live action remakes are for like the Renaissance, the Disney Renaissance,
Yeah,
which
that's
is like
true. That's
in
in
the
the
90s.
yeah,
And we're
yeah.
talking, we have to start in
Well,
1937.
no, Maleficent.
That's true. Well, that's
Maleficent.
1950.
Yeah.
Sleeping Beauty
That's
is still like,
Yeah.
or actually Cinderella's
White.
Sleeping Beauty.
Snow White was the first
Well,
one.
Cinderella
Cinderella's
has a movie.
1950.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sleeping Beauty, I think, was like 1955,
Yeah.
1957, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Pinocchio. There's like 15,000 different versions.
I know,
Basically,
but-
Adam, we're
and-
going to
and
take you
there's
to
a-
animation school.
I
That's
haven't
what's gonna
seen that
happen.
one yet either. There's a
Which one?
Tom Hanks played
Yes.
Geppetto
Mhm.
Pinocchio
That's
live
right.
action
Last year,
movie.
didn't it?
Just came out on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And
there's a
I need
Roberto
to.
Benigni version.
I heard
That
it was
one's
not great.
weird. Don't
Yeah.
watch that.
There's a
The Guillermo del Toro new
yeah.
version.
Yeah, we
yeah.
could watch that.
I still
Sad.
haven't seen it.
We could watch
Yeah.
it, but
yeah. If you want us to do that,
There
let us
you
know.
go.
It's kind of on you.
There you
Wait,
It's
go.
kind of on you.
who asked that question? We got
Nobody asked that
Nobody. We
question.
just brought that up ourselves. That's
Oh,
not a
I thought
question.
you said it was a question.
No,
He
I'm
was-
fucking with you guys.
Son of a.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested. I know that I have a lot of blind spots and a lot of because I
And-
primarily
yeah.
grew up on watching. If it was animation,
Sure,
it was superhero animation.
Yeah.
which is great.
X-Men, Spider-Man,
Which is great.
Batman,
And
Superman.
There's
you know?
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
wrong with
Man,
Yeah,
there's even some Disney movies I haven't seen yet. I don't think I've seen The Black Cauldron.
yeah.
I don't think I've seen Oliver and Company since like 1992.
that. Yeah, I haven't seen
You know what I'm
Oliver
saying?
and Company
It's been a
in
minute.
a long time.
Mhm.
Been a minute. What else? I'm trying to remember what else I haven't seen. I never saw Home on the
The
Range.
Great Mouse Detective.
I've seen some of that. I haven't. I
Oh,
don't think
that's-
but it's a good one.
That was
I've
a
seen
banger.
The Little Toaster, Brave,
Brave
Little
Little
Toaster.
That's
Toaster?
in Disney.
I know
That
it's
ain't
not Disney,
Disney,
but it's
but
so
that's a good one.
Pretty good.
Well, if you
Then
want to go down that route.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Then you go into like the
Yeah.
Don Bluth era, which
Yeah.
like The Land Before Time and like
Right.
All Dogs Go to Heaven,
Anastasia.
Rockadoodle, all these weird.
50 Goes West.
They're weird.
Great American. What was the first one? The first 50 movie?
American Tail.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are great.
Those are great. The Secret of Nim.
Mhm.
What else?
We're back. A dinosaur story.
Rockadoodle.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
That was one of my favorites.
And then you watch these. You know what it reminds me of? I just read a
I
thing.
watched Two Stupid Dogs on Cartoon Network.
Speaking of, I just read a thing about.
Oh, wait. When's the
Gandhi.
last time you watched Fox and the Hound? That's going to be a rough one
It
to
is.
watch. Have you seen Fox and the Hound?
they did
Adam?
Fox and the Hound too.
It's probably one of Disney's saddest movies.
Yes, it is.
It's
Cool.
emotionally devastating.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
For sure.
cool.
Sorry,
Can't
what were you
wait.
saying? Gendy?
Gendy Tartakovsky was just he came up.
We're going to
on-
rename this
on
channel Gendy
the
Tartakovsky channel.
I think it was Craig McCracken, who's the creator of the Powerpuff Girls. He and Gendy, I think, went to Cal Arts at the same time.
Mhm.
They graduated and started working at Hanna-Barbera as they were developing Cartoon Network.
Mhm.
And Cartoon Network started to do its own original shows, not just reruns of Hanna-Barbera. That's where Two Stupid Dogs came from. But I think somebody said, oh, there's a story where like as soon as these guys started to work at Hanna-Barbera, they had access to these old shows.
Mhm.
And Gendy was really excited. So he starts watching these old tapes of Hong Kong Phooey
Oh, yeah.
and then was
Yeah.
disappointed because he's like, I got to stop watching this. The show is so bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
hold up.
Mm.
And I think Craig McCracken told Gendy, or vice versa. I forget which one of them saw. I think Gendy watched it, was disappointed.
Mhm.
And then Craig McCracken or somebody told Gendy, okay, make the show that you thought you watched when you were a kid.
Oh,
And that's what
Samurai
Dexter's
Jack.
Lab,
Right.
Powerpuff
Okay.
Girls, Samurai Jack. Like basically, yes.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid and you watch something like Hong Kong Phooey,
Yeah, your perspective is so
you
different.
kind of think it's awesome, and then you get
Yeah.
older and you're like, actually, that show sucked.
yeah.
Or you watch
Here's what I thought it
That's
was.
how
Right.
all the original animated, like the 80s and 90s shows are,
He-Man,
though. They're really
know.
hard. So I've been observing this because
Yeah.
I'm on a nostalgia kick on my social media.
Yeah.
All the theme songs for the cartoons that were bangers. I'm talking Gummy Bears,
well animated.
Darkwing Duck.
'Cause that's
the
where they
intro
spent-
to Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Do you remember that intro, the
Great.
animated one?
Kind of, yeah.
It's batshit insane,
awesome.
animated beautifully.
Yeah.
But then you watch the show and it's garbage.
Yeah, they
it's
had
like it's
$4
really
to-
hard
yeah.
to watch. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Right.
you had $8 to animate a whole episode,
Yeah.
and like the stories don't hold up. Rescue Rangers, amazing, beautiful theme, right?
Yeah.
I watched the first 3 episodes, and I'm like, I can't continue watching this
Chip and
show.
Dale. Yeah.
DuckTales,
Yep.
another one, like
Mhm.
great intro, and I think there's something weird in that. Like we're still so attached to just the
Sure.
theme song,
Yeah.
but not the episodes.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, X-Men is another, like, some of the
Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
are really good.
Here's
Some
the thing.
episodes have really good
Here's the
animation,
thing.
but that intro
Oh,
is
that's-
like,
For that, and I would argue some of Batman the Animated Series, but I think on the whole,
Yeah.
Batman the Animated Series was better animated
oh yeah,
episode by episode
consistently.
consistently.
Yeah.
But like the cool thing about X-Men or like Spider-Man, the 90s cartoon show, is
Yeah,
we
that one was
remember the
bad.
stories.
right,
We don't remember the animation.
right.
I remember,
I remember the.
I mean, we do. We do. But
Yeah.
yeah, watching X-Men with you guys, there's so many moments where you're like, oh, don't have enough money.
That's-
Oh,
yeah.
that
From
looks
the-
pretty good.
Very
Oh, this looks
clear.
this
Nebula.
looks bad. But then even like if you spend your childhood watching something like Goof Troop,
Mhm.
the payoff is then they came out with a Goofy movie,
Right.
which I think has a great story and is beautifully animated.
Oh yeah.
So it
Oh,
holds up. It stands the test.
Yeah,
you know?
that
but
definitely does, and there are standouts
yeah.
Mhm.
that are done really well.
You know
but
what's
for the most part, it was all bad.
as
was all
as a little preview for what we're going to talk about in a minute, watching Across the Spider-Verse,
Mhm.
I felt like as we were watching it, I was like, this is what it felt like to read Spider-Man comics
Oh,
when I was
yeah.
younger.
Oh yeah.
And if I go back and read those Spider-Man comics now, they're different. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this isn't actually that cool, especially comics from the 90s,
Yeah.
Mm.
which were a lot of them were boo-boo bad. But like when I was a kid, I was like, the Clone Saga, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And you watch it now and they're kind of making fun of Scarlet Spider for that kind of same reason.
Yeah.
But that notion of like make the thing that you thought you experienced when you were
Yeah.
a kid,
Back in the day.
that's such a great creative note.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what every creative should be doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
What,
agree.
what show did you think you watched? Is it what,
Right.
and
Make
that's
that.
honestly like Transformers, the show from the 80s was probably okay, or G.I. Joe was okay.
Or Beast Wars.
But the people who grew up with those, and He-Man's another great example, you
Yeah.
know, they thought they were so awesome and
Oh,
they
yeah.
held on to those characters. And then when they got to work on that property years later, they made that shit awesome, like
Mhm.
Transformers Prime or He-Man Revelation or
the
whatever.
story
You know.
is there, and that's Adam and I were talking about this in
Yeah.
the car on the ride home. But
Yeah.
that goes into the whole Spider-Man conversation.
Let's knock these out. So we
Yeah,
can get
let's
to
knock
Spidey.
these bad boys out because I
Okay.
felt bad leaving a lot of these questions out
Okay,
last
from
week.
R. Brent Krim. You all usually have beverages with you while recording. So my question is, what is your go-to adult beverage? As a Kentucky native, bourbon is my regular, but some of the hard seltzers just hit right sometimes.
A hard seltzer.
Well, we know Hector's
I'm okay
answer.
with a hard seltzer.
Mhm.
I'm okay with a hard seltzer.
I've been getting into Ashland hard seltzers.
Is that that's
They're like made in San Diego. I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
anything about them other than they're called Ashland. They're like
Cool.
fruit flavored.
Mhm.
hard seltzer?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
really good. It's like basically like a soda with alcohol in it, but they're
Okay.
good. Otherwise, I've been drinking a lot of wine in the last year.
Mm.
A lot of wine.
Mhm. I like a light beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like a Corona. They're
Hector,
so
you're a
drinkable.
Blue Moon guy, though.
I do like a Blue Moon.
I know you
Shock
love
top.
Blue Moon.
Shock
A
top.
shock
I like a
top.
shock
yeah.
top
and a Blue Moon?
Mhm.
You're
yeah,
an
I do
Applebee's
I do
boy.
like sure. I like Applebee's. Yeah, man. Let's go. Hey, fuck that. Let's go Chili's.
Let's go tonight.
yeah,
Let's go
Chili's.
tonight
Let's
after
go.
this.
Let's
Get
go.
that
Let's do
molten
it.
lava cake.
That's right, baby.
I'm also like a terrible alcoholic connoisseur. I'll drink whatever wine,
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
and I
Uh-huh.
will pretty much have any kind of a cocktail or drink or whatever. But
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty flexible. The only thing is, I
have a
have to
go-to.
kind of stay away from red wine because what is it? There's like one ingredient in there that like makes
That you're
me,
allergic to.
yeah, not totally allergic, but I
Mm.
definitely have like a
Oh,
reaction. I'm like,
really?
oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I have to stick
Yeah.
with white wines.
I like me any kind of wine.
Mhm.
I think I can drink any kind of wine.
Are you a tequila guy?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
tequila, but my go-to drink is not a hard liquor.
Yeah. What is it?
I generally will just stick to a beer, and whenever I go to a brewery or something, I always ask for any kind of a brown or nut brown ale.
Yeah, those are
Where
really
it's like,
good.
Tasty.
dude, like give me like a peanut butter stout. Those are pretty good.
They can just be
Um,
kind of heavy sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they can be.
But what I like about that is you can get one drink and you're kind of set.
Set.
you can sit with it because even if
Yeah.
it warms up a little bit, it doesn't
Mhm.
taste bad.
Right.
Some
right.
beers, like once they warm up, it's just it's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
And they're kind
a
of
lot of
filling, which
those-
is nice. You
yeah.
don't feel like I gotta have like three.
I need a pound
3 or
4 of
4.
these,
No.
right? No, you don't need that.
Yeah.
And like they're
Yeah.
good on a hot day, and they're
Mhm.
good, chilling and hanging out with friends. So Yeah, I think that's my.
This is going to be a surprising thing for me to say, but I don't really drink that much beer anymore.
We were talking about that
Yeah.
earlier. And
Yeah,
how,
because you don't
like,
have access to Czech beer.
Well, not
easily.
only
Close out
that,
dark.
but
That's
you know,
that's a brown.
that
brown
one
ale.
that one is so good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's coming from San Diego. Well, it doesn't matter where you come from; they have beer everywhere. But it's such a like beer city,
Oh yeah, it is.
and there's like so much beer all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah, because San Diego's
boring.
boring, dude. That's why everyone goes, "What are we doing? We're going out drinking. Let's go out drinking."
That's all there is to do is drink beer.
But I don't know, for whatever reason, I think it's also just like beer just is heavy.
It is. Man, you get
Heavy.
older. That's
Yeah.
where beer belly comes from.
That's
You
right.
gotta.
You gotta hone it in.
That's why I like those stouts because it's like I'm good with just one. I'm good
Here's
with one.
my thing.
I gotta
now.
drive. I'm good with
39 years old.
Yeah.
I have to make the decision. Adam and I were talking about this earlier.
one. 30,
when I
30
go out,
fine.
30 ugly,
Looking good.
ugly.
30 fine.
No, so like
30
I
fine.
have to make the decision. If I'm gonna go
Yeah.
out, I have to make the decision to either drink or
Right.
eat because I can't do
You can't
both
do
at the
both.
same time.
Can't do both anymore.
I can't do both at the same time
Well, we
because I
get
feel
sleepy.
like my stomach gets all like extended and
Yeah.
bloated, and I'm
Turn
just
into
like,
that
okay.
Willy Wonka kid.
Yeah, I feel like
And your
Augustus
wife
Gloop.
has got to roll you
I
out
feel
of
like
the.
Yeah.
I feel
It's like
like
us when we went to
Veruca
sushi that
Salt.
one night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I
Like-
eating or drinking? That's
Yeah,
true.
it's because
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, I can't do both. And then when I drink, it's like one beer.
Mhm.
I had
Right.
one beer while I was barbecuing a couple
Great.
days ago, and I was like,
This is great.
I'm already feeling kind of buzzed.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all I
Enjoy
need.
your youth. Don't go crazy. Enjoy your youth.
And have a great time.
That's it.
From Justin Desasare. Hector, I was a huge fan of 500 Greatest Film podcast back in the day. And I was wondering what my man Keller thinks of the latest phase of the MCU, as well as Ant-Man and
good
Guardians of the
question.
Galaxy Volume 3.
That's a good
He liked
question.
Guardians.
Okay.
He thought some of Ant-Man was funny, but he didn't love it.
I watched it with him.
You did.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about it? So you know.
Yeah,
what you thought about it.
he didn't really enjoy the movie.
Okay.
Like
Ant-Man?
Yeah, him and Chelsea both walked out of there just like,
I remember
big fan of
afterwards he
this.
was like, Kang was cool, but now that's weird to talk about because it's Jonathan Majors.
right.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Right.
oh, great.
Yeah. Where do you go with that character?
A highlight of that film, and now it's weird. To
That's
like,
been such a topic of conversation to
Yeah.
see. Comic-Con's going to be interesting to see what they announce at their panel
yeah,
or what they talk about.
Yeah.
or don't announce,
Yeah.
or I
With
don't
the
know.
So they
So-
just put
Yeah.
out, and because I frequent Disney quite often, they just put out a Kang pin,
Mhm.
Cool.
but it's
Disneyland, you frequent.
Disneyland.
Yeah.
I frequent Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's like this big,
Yeah,
and it's a Kang pin.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly Jonathan Majors. It's like the
Mm.
silhouette of a person who might look like Jonathan Majors,
Shit.
but might not look like Jonathan Majors.
You know what's crazy is
Yeah.
to think is like, are the merchandising people this on it that like
Mhm.
they've already made some decision at the toppest, highest, uppity up.
Yeah.
Like Kevin
If
Feige has
there's a
made some
change,
call,
we'll pivot.
and the first person they call is like, we got to call the pin people because it takes months.
The park pin people.
But you know what's
No,
messed
right,
up?
right.
Yeah.
The merch
That might
people.
be the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
Right.
That might
'Cause
be
it
They
the
have a whole
takes
case.
months
production line of
to- yeah.
pins going.
That somebody, as soon as something like that happens, that they go like, oh, we got to stop putting Ezra Miller's face on every Flash thing.
Exactly.
Let's do some cool.
Let's
How's
change
this?
it.
Let's do
Let's
this.
change it.
Let's focus on Keaton. Let's focus on
and
Keaton.
that's kind of telling as to like
it's
how they're trying to strategize approaching
it's
this whole situation.
cynical of us to even have that thought, but it might be the case. That's all I'm saying.
Well, here's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors was dropped by his PR company.
I know. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is horrible because
Yeah.
you pay a PR company to make stuff like this smoothed out.
Right.
Mhm.
If the PR company looked at everything and they didn't drop him immediately, they dropped him months after. If the PR company looked at everything and they're like, "Hey,
We can't
listen,
help you.
we can't help you with
Or-
this. You're not
or-
with us anymore." That's
or,
bad.
Or
That's
I mean,
really bad.
as bad is if they sat down with this guy,
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors, and they were like, okay, this is what needs to happen.
Mhm.
This is what, this is what you need to do.
Right.
How do we make that? Like, this is what we need to
Yeah.
do to make this better.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Majors is potentially such a sociopath that he
Mhm.
was like, no. Or
Yeah.
he was like, well,
Yeah.
this is how I feel.
Right.
And the PR people went, we have to get out of
Gotta
this.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How messed up is that?
Either way, it's not a good
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not a good
I
thing.
don't know.
And he was not paying chump change for his PR company. He had the
Mhm.
best of the
Right.
best of the best working for him.
Yeah.
With honor.
And so yeah, so
I feel so bad
it's
for
tough, man. It's a really tough, and it's
Yeah.
all speculative on our point. We don't know
Sure.
any inside stuff, but just
Mhm.
looking at it from the outside, it's got to be code red right now.
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
Marvel.
I mean,
Like it's crazy.
yeah, I can't even imagine because it's like they have to stay involved in some way legally, but also I'm
Yeah.
sure they're like creatively like, we don't want to deal with
But
this.
also, like, what does something like this do to a legal contract? Like, does it break a
Yeah,
legal
Oh,
contract?
that's a good point. I have
Yeah.
to imagine that
Right?
there's some kind of like
I can't imagine
Yeah.
that they wouldn't write some contingency plan in a
Right,
contract where,
right.
like, if you get in trouble,
break
by the way,
law or whatever.
break the
Sure,
law,
sure, sure,
get
sure.
convicted, or even like there's some level
Right.
some level of control, like some meter that they have. Like if your meter crosses this line,
Right.
Yeah.
Your
we're
contract is
dropping you,
void.
and you have to agree
Mhm.
to this. And if
Yeah.
you agree to that, then once again, all speculation though. We don't know shit.
Yeah.
We don't know Jonathan Majors. We don't know what's
Yeah.
happening at Marvel.
We don't work
so-
on the Marvel legal team.
No,
Just-
no, not at all.
Yeah.
Noah G10 asks, "What's up, guys? 2 quick questions. First, will you guys ever do another rewatch of Iron Man 1? And
Maybe.
second, if you guys had an idea, who do you think is going to be the Thanos-like villain for the new DCU, or who do you think should be? You guys honestly rock,
the
and love how positive
DCU,
you guys are,
interesting.
even with the negatives, if that makes sense. LOL.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't. Marvel and DC, they're so comparable.
Yeah.
But I don't want fandom to try to like fall for that trap in a way.
Uh-huh.
I get, you know what I mean? Like, because I think I fell for that trap.
Of like,
That,
of
that I was
what? Of
that I
what?
was that I was thinking like, dude, Darkseid is their Thanos.
yeah.
Mhm.
Darkseid's got to be the Apocalypse and Darkseid. That's got to be the end game. That's
Yeah.
got to be. And now I'm looking at like type of storyteller James Gunn is,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the type of people they could potentially hire, people like James Mangold doing Swamp Thing, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't have a big bad,
Right.
but maybe they'll have different approaches.
Milestone events.
Milestone, and I know you're.
Or
a
I
big,
mean, like,
no,
like events that.
right?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
know you're a big like Green Lantern fan, Augustine, or some of
Yeah.
those comics.
Yeah.
Like, and they took on, Sinestro, leading into I think Black Hand, leading
Mhm.
into like
Yeah.
Necron. This
Yeah.
really cool. And I'm like, maybe they'll do some of that, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this like who's going to be their blank, who's going to
Yeah.
be their blank.
Yeah.
I hope that DC and DC Studios and James Gunn and everybody can kind of focus on the stuff that makes them unique versus what worked for Marvel Studios over
Yeah.
here. Well, they did a really cool thing with WandaVision. Let's try to
Yeah.
find our WandaVision. Don't do
Yeah.
that.
No.
Look at your comics and go, what do you have?
Yeah.
Like for the TV, they've been doing a good job. They did
Yeah.
Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
And there's not too many things like Doom Patrol in Marvel Comics.
Mhm.
X-Men, not really. So,
Yeah.
I would hope fandom doesn't kind of fall into those same.
I would
Yeah.
hope that the thing that disappoints me about the MCU is their constant killing of the villain at the end of a movie, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't
Sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
for the like especially early on,
Yeah.
all the villains were just dead at the end of the
Yeah.
movie, right? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's
Iron
what was
Man.
happening.
Loki, I think, was the only survivor.
Right.
Yeah.
Loki and moving on,
Whiplash,
people
yeah.
were just dying at the ends of movies. And I'm just like, look, I understand that these aren't like Doctor Doom style villains, but at the same time, these movies don't always have to end in the death of a villain.
Right.
Like that's why I love Guardians so much, because of what they did with that. Like not everybody has to, like death shouldn't be the ultimate motivation for people to do stuff.
Yeah. But
You
hang
know
on.
what I'm saying?
Ronan died at the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
And Ego died at the end of the second movie.
Yeah.
High Evolutionary didn't die
That we know of.
that we know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, especially because DC Comics, they have really good villains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their villains are great, right?
Keep them
So
around.
the
yeah.
villains can go around. You have like the negative zone, which people can go into, and
The
like
Phantom Zone.
oh yeah,
Zone.
Phantom Zone. Sorry, you have the
See, they're so
Phantom Zone.
comparable. Negative
Right,
Zone
exactly.
is Marvel.
Negative Zone is the Phantom Zone. But like you have all these cool toys and story techniques to play with
Mhm.
that villains don't have to die at the end of stuff, and they don't have to. Their story also doesn't have to cover a 10-year arc
Right,
of thing,
right.
right? Like my idea for the MCU is having a World War Hulk thing where Hulk turns into the villain for 3 movies. I think that would be incredible because it's somebody from the inside.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
having something like that, having like Superman's greatest challenges aren't supervillains.
Mhm.
It's the things that he can and cannot do personally,
Mhm.
like sacrifices that he has to make to become that hero. And I think that's really the greatest story to tell. And I think James Gunn is going to do an awesome job of like telling those stories, and not to discount like the amazing villains, but those are the types of things that the villains can bring out in these superheroes, right?
Mhm.
So when that happens, when you have a character well written, presumably as well as we have seen Superman in the past in comic books and things, when he's that fleshed out, that well written, the villains just shine because they know the weaknesses of that amazing superhero that is seemingly indestructible, you know? And that's what I think makes a really, really good villain. It's the Joker Batman paradigm. It's like that kind of thing.
Have you seen Fast X yet?
No.
What you're describing is the villain in Fast X. Like to a T.
So good.
But that's why they work though,
Yes.
right? That's why they
he's
work.
maybe the best villain in the entire.
we didn't even talk about Fast X. But yeah.
Pretty ridiculous. Pretty great.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Quick 30-second review. Go, both of you.
It was fun. It's not my favorite Fast movie.
No.
But I'm really excited for 11
and 12.
Speaking of Across the Spider-Verse, pretty great setup for stuff.
Yeah.
And I liked a lot of the additional new characters. You know, villain Dante was Jason Momoa.
So
career highlight
ridiculous.
for him. Career highlight for him. You know, Brie Larson was awesome.
Yeah.
I want to see more of her. Daniela. Melchior.
Yeah.
She was pretty great.
Yeah. Alan Ritson was pretty fun.
He was, dude. I love that dude.
That dude is enormous now.
That dude
needs to stop working out for 5 minutes.
That dude played Hawk from Hawk and Dove in Titans.
Oh, right.
And he's like the
he was Aquaman in Smallville.
Yeah, big dude.
And he played Raphael in the Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah,
he did the motion capture.
The Michael Bay. I interviewed him once.
Hated.
I interviewed him once for Titans, and he was super big and super nice. And you get this feeling from that guy of like, dude, you should be a movie star. Like he's at that level that he can be one of these big action star guys. So that's 30 seconds.
Yeah,
that was 30 seconds.
I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I liked it more than Fast 9.
F9.
Dude, the action is just like it starts and it never stops for 2 hours and some change.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I think at this point, you know, after Fast 5 through 7, I think are like my favorite trilogy of movies in the whole series.
5, 6, 7. Sure.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7 are I think are my favorite. And it's so hard to talk about 1 and comparing it to 10 because they've come such a long way in 22 years. I think now the franchise, of course, it's gone ridiculous and
it is
so like exaggerated.
It is,
but it's such a fun time with the movies.
Agreed.
Such a fun time. I had a really great time with it. Yeah, I cannot wait for Fast 11 and 12, part 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. I know they said they're doing spinoffs. I'm a little more weary about those, but depends on what characters they follow, so we'll see.
Let's get animated versions, baby.
Oh my
God. They already do.
They already do on Netflix.
There's a Netflix show, Fast and Furious Spy Racers. It's okay. I saw 4 seasons of it. I got to finish the last 2 seasons. There's 6.
There's 6 seasons?
Yeah, dude.
When did all this come out?
Bro, like 2019.
Jeez.
I need to watch those.
Christ.
They're
That's
cool.
ridiculous.
Good kid show.
Lemon Eater L is asking, you 3 are an oasis in a sea of bland. And my question is, if CzechXicans were a telenovela, what would the plot arc be, and which homie would Hector end up with?
Oh my God, though. What would it be?
Novela.
Okay, so there's a very legendary Mexican telenovela, at least it was when I was growing up. It's called Dos Mujeres, Un Camino.
Okay.
Ours would be Tres Hombres, Un Camino.
Tres Hombres, Un YouTube channel.
Un YouTube channel. We would all be ranchers. We would all be ranchers. And
but we would live on a commune farm, right? Like all three of us would have a house on the farm.
Adam would be the foreign exchange student from Prague. He'd be coming in from Prague.
Okay.
He would be stealing our women.
Okay.
But the women would be having our babies. I don't know. Adam's too hunky. He's just a hunk.
Having our twin babies.
But
the twins are changed. So your wife has
what
your baby and my baby at the same time. And then my wife has my baby and your baby in her belly at the same time.
And at one point, we would all of us learn that we were long lost triplets. That's
exactly.
Separated at birth.
But yeah, you would come onto the farm.
Yeah.
But you didn't know that I was secretly your long lost brother.
My God, today we go to see Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And one of the people was like, "Are you guys brothers?"
Yeah.
Like, there we go. Here we
go.
Not at all.
Embrace it in the show.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
So that would be the thing. Yeah.
And then that answers your question.
Actually, the name of the show would be Tres Amigos, Tres Hermanos.
There
would be the name of the show. Like Tres Amigos, Tres Hermanos.
Tres Hermanos, yeah.
3 friends,
good.
3 brothers.
There you go.
All right,
someone write it and we'll film it.
We will make it happen.
Michael Leitenberger is asking, hey guys, I know that you're quite busy with everything already, but I was wondering if you had given any thought to watch Mission Impossible series before the release of Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Next year.
The whole series?
Next year, we're doing the whole series.
All 7 movies.
Before Dead Reckoning Part 2.
So
we didn't do that one. We specifically skipped it. to do other franchises like Indiana Jones, Batman and Batman Returns, Guardians. We're going to watch Captain Marvel. So we'll get to it next year.
It's coming.
Dune Part 1.
We'll do that. So
In
we're
3D.
also going to do Fast and Furious by the time the next one releases. So we're pausing and we'll get to that. So thank you. Yeah, look forward to that.
Maya's asking, I know you guys love film scores, and I love that you shout them out during some of your reactions and reviews because they go so overlooked sometimes. What would you say are your all-timers? And with the Guardians film specifically being infamous for their soundtracks, is there a needle drop from one of them that is your favorite?
I mean, I'm listening to Spider-Verse, Daniel Pemberton on the way here in my car.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Beautiful
soundtrack.
score.
Yeah.
God, we have to mention Tron Legacy.
Tron Legacy is very, very, very good, but I don't know if it's my favorite.
Sure, but I just have to mention it because I feel like it's one of those examples where it's very unique, and it's one of those examples where I'm like, the score is, I think, better than the film, and I really like the movie, but I'm like, the score is
top
incredible.
Notch.
I mean, it's Daft Punk, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's good.
We've been
their one and only score.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Indiana Jones or Batman. You're gonna say Danny Elfman Batman?
Yeah.
Pretty great.
God damn, that score! Like, because we've been rewatching a lot of movies, that score just like all of the I don't know. I think they're trumpets and just the sounds are so hard. All the horns.
Yeah.
God damn, that score is unreal.
Danny Elfman horns.
It's so good.
I think one of the movie scores that I've listened to the most is the Napoleon Dynamite score.
Oh,
have you guys ever listened to that music?
I used to when it came out. Yeah.
The score.
Ooh,
there's original music.
Yeah.
Like,
wait, isn't Nacho Libre the same director as it is?
Yeah.
Right, Jared Hess.
Jared Hess. Yeah.
I also like the score in Nacho.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But both soundtracks have cool songs in them.
I think the soundtrack for Nacho is stronger than the soundtrack for
Napoleon.
But
you like the score.
But like the original score for Napoleon Dynamite is so unique and quirky, and it's done on this crazy little organ, and like it's so
I remember now that you're talking about it.
Yeah, it's like very plinky plunky kind of music, but it works for like the setting, the characters, everything. Is just you should just throw it on in the background, Hector. When
actually, now that I think about it, there was a Napoleon Dynamite comic book that came out a few years back.
And there was a cartoon too.
Yeah, I didn't see the cartoon, but I was reading the comic book, and it's like a direct sequel to the movie. And I was listening to the score while I was reading
it's pretty great. It's pretty great.
Yeah,
that's a sleeper hit right there.
Do you guys have any specific song from the Guardians movies?
I still go to, somebody asked us on Twitter the other day, I think it was Andres, posed this question: what's your favorite needle drop in all the Guardians movies?
Yeah.
And a lot of great answers, but I think I responded with, I still go Fleetwood Mac, The Chain,
I was thinking the
for
same
Volume 2,
Yeah.
when Ego smushes the Walkman, and Peter hears, and
Killed
if
my
you
mother.
don't love me now, and that fight, I love that song, and I love that needle drop. I love the way it's used earlier in the film.
Yeah.
I love the way that it was brought back there. That's my favorite. But dude, Beastie Boys in 3 was awesome.
Beastie Boys is the
Florence and the Machine. It's now very emotional to me.
Yeah,
knowing that singer is sitting in the theater watching the movie and crying. And there's so much more emotion added to that song.
I never liked that song.
I thought it was
I did
fine,
not like that song,
and now I kind of love it.
Yeah, now
So,
I love it.
That's another great use of that song.
Yeah, it's Beastie Boys for me. But Florence, I think, is second place. I've always loved the soundtracks to the other two.
Yeah.
I think they're great, but I just never had that emotional connection to any of that music as far as like, I listened to it as far as like it was on the radio. I would play at white weddings.
Oh yeah. God.
And
white weddings are so fun. White people weddings, they're just like they're crazy.
It would play at white people weddings, but I rarely went to white people weddings. Like I always had, Mexican weddings that I went to. So to me, the Beastie Boys needle drop and the soundtrack for all of the third movie, I think is the best one for me.
It's a great soundtrack. Yeah.
Carlos Torres is asking, "¿Qué lo que mis amigos?" I don't know what that means. Hope the gang is doing good. Wanted to hear your take. With the success of Doom Part 1 and Part 2 looking to be just as epic and do just as well, I'm curious if this franchise could benefit from having the follow-up projects that are spin-offs and maybe prequels have the Star Wars Marvel shows. Example, the Schools of Dune trilogy would make an epic limited series for each books exploring the Dune lore or universe leading up to the actual sequels. P.S. Ironically, haven't gotten to the actual book. Working my way through the prequels on House Harkonnen now, and I highly suggest reading them. Hopefully it'll be done by the time November rolls around. Thanks again. Saludos de Portland.
I didn't know that are there book prequels?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're outside of Dune.
You're the most experienced on Dune.
I'm like as far away from the Dune franchise as
I've
anybody
only
could be.
I've only read the first book, which is going to be these 2 movies that they split in half to do the 2 movies. It was a question like, do you think they should do it that way.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know the world well enough to like have a take on that.
Yeah.
I'm along for the ride because they're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing a spin-off TV
The
show
show, yeah.
based on the women in the Dune universe that are the women nun religion or whatever that thing is that like Rebecca Ferguson is. But I don't know if that's like a prequel or whatever. And I also know that the Dune-verse spans thousands of years, but I thought that went into the future after Paul, 10,000 years in the future. I'm down for anything as long as basically these same creative people are kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
And if Denis Villeneuve's like, I think this would make a great movie. I think this would make a great TV show.
Yeah.
Or other experts are weighing in, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, as long as it's all done
Yeah.
with that
Yeah.
level of
Care.
and quality.
Mhm. Yeah, because I loved Dune Part 1. That was such an amazing movie, and I cannot wait to see Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
But I agree. And I don't know, Denis Villeneuve doesn't exactly seem like a guy who'd want to be like in charge of a franchise
Right.
for that long of a
He
term.
doesn't seem like a John Favreau.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I
You
think
know,
he's
or
the
like
guy
a-
who wants
yeah.
to pop in, like, I love the book. I just want to make the movie on
Sure.
the book. And, you know, if it's 2 movies, it's 2 movies, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Dune is comparable to Star Wars.
Mhm. It's a
Like, it
different
is.
beast.
Different thing. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, great, this is the new big franchise. It's
Yeah.
like, maybe it's not.
Right.
Maybe
Plus,
it's
I think Denis Villeneuve, he's got amazing filmmaking technique, but I also think that some of his movies sometimes play like movies that came out maybe like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They're a little slower paced,
Mhm.
and they really require you to just kind of like sit and live in the universe. And it's tough because, you know, Blade Runner 2049, some of his other movies,
love it.
you know, they are really good. They don't necessarily do the best at the box office when they're the big budget films, which is a bummer because I think they're really, really good.
Mhm.
And I love Sicario and I love Prisoners and I love all the movies that he's made. But I think it's a little bit of a hard sell to the studio as well. Hey, you want to do these prequel series or do you want to do these sequel books? Are they all going to feel like the 2 movies?
Mhm.
But then I feel like if you were to change that, make something different, I don't know if the quality is going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whatever.
So the question is, we'd love to
Whatever's
see it.
clever, dog.
We'd-
Whatever's clever, dog.
I think the answer is we'd love to see it, but it really just
Yeah.
kind of depends on like what's the pitch.
Yep.
I'll leave the blur dead. Hey fellas, what's good? I was wondering how often do you guys do in-person meet and greet type events, and are they always events only in California? I'd love to know where we can see you guys to meet and say thank you for all the laughs and content in person. If I got to trek across the country to see y'all, I need to plan that out. Ha ha ha. And when are we getting that cooking episode? To answer the second question, soon. To answer the first
Soon
question,
enough.
well, we're going to Comic-Con next month, and we
Yeah.
were actually just talking. We want to try to plan something for Comic-Con.
Yeah, we should.
We really want to do more cons that we travel to. It's just so hard, the scheduling and, you know, the budget
Yeah.
for it also, because it's not just going to the con, it's the airfare, it's the lodging,
Hotel,
it's
it's
the food and all
yeah.
that sort of stuff. So it's something that we really have to save
here's-
for.
Here's what I will say, and I don't know if this could ever work, but if you have a local con,
Mhm.
if you wanted to try to find out who's in charge of it, who
Yeah.
runs it, who books people, and like hit them up and go, hey,
Invite these
these 3 guys, this
chuckleheads.
YouTube channel,
Yeah.
invite them, fly them out, put them in a little hotel somewhere, but
Mhm.
they can host panels for you guys.
Yeah.
I will show
Yeah.
up and I will want to get something signed by them,
Mhm.
but like they can work for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hire them to do that stuff. I think we're a good investment. I don't know. Tell them and
Totally.
and
I agree.
maybe they'll
I
agree,
agree.
or maybe
Yeah.
they'll go,
I
no, we're
agree.
good.
yeah.
We've got local
They're like,
people.
no,
we'll
we
hire
got
for
a
that."
guy over
Okay.
here. He's been doing it for 30 years. So
Fine. I'm sure he's great.
Yeah. So it really depends,
Yeah.
but we'd love to. Yeah, we'd love to do more stuff. Comic-Con is always going to be the easiest for us.
Yeah.
LA Comic-Con, if we go, we haven't
Yeah.
gone. Well, I haven't gone in a while. Star Wars
been a minute.
Celebration, you know, we had plans to go and then we couldn't go. So it really just kind of depends on where things are. And
Yeah.
it also,
But dude,
truthfully, a lot of it is also like, where do we want to go?
Yeah. That's true.
here's the other thing. If somebody slid into our inbox and was like, "Hey, I run a con in Ohio. Can we pay you guys, fly you out, pay for your airfare, pay for a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and pay a little cheddar cheese, a little bit
Yeah.
to like host a few panels and like spend time with us this weekend?" We're probably going to be like, "Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why
We
not?
haven't done that yet.
That's
we
the
would like
name
to
of
do
the
that.
game.
Yeah.
Let's go."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know,
We'll spend a weekend in Ohio. Why not?
slide into our inbox.
Just give us a long list of good food
That'd
and
be
drink
fun.
places and we'll
That
go.
would be
That
fun.
would be
Yeah.
a ton of fun. Are you kidding me?
That'd be amazing.
That would be incredible.
So the answer is ask your local con. Joseph Lynch
Yeah.
with the final question. Besides 3D and IMAX, what other formats do you guys like to watch movies in? 4DX, ScreenX, OmniMax 3D?
My living room like this.
There you go. Mhm. Where I can pause it.
Or I can pause it
Um,
or rewind it.
I'm down for whatever, but if a movie comes out in 3D, that's all I care about.
I mean, 3D
And
is the format.
And
for
I
me.
sometimes prefer real D
Over
3D
Dolby.
over an IMAX,
Oh,
only
sure.
because the arena is so big.
Mm-hmm.
The screen is so big that I'll like look at a thing and I'm like, oh, some of the middle seats are already taken. You know what? Let me just do a real D showing of that same movie in a smaller theater,
Yeah.
but it's a little less crowded.
Depthy.
And I can just get a pretty good seat, and then I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't need it to be bells and whistles.
Ugh, for me, it really depends on the movie.
I know you like IMAX.
truthfully.
I know you're like, yeah, but you're right. You only go like,
Yeah, it really
was this
depends
shot
on
in
the movie.
IMAX? If it's not shot in IMAX, I'm not going to see it in IMAX.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
Is it fake
if none of
IMAX?
it, if none of it's in IMAX, then I don't really care. I'd rather just go
Yeah.
see it in Dolby or Real D 3D.
They call it Limax.
Yeah,
Limax,
I
Fimax.
tend to prefer Real D 3D only because the glasses are more comfortable for us.
Yeah.
Dolby 3D, I think the picture quality is better, but the glasses, I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with those things.
Mhm.
So if you work at Real D 3D,
Yeah, you should make a deal with Dolby.
and you want to hire us to like host any of your events, we like 3D.
Augustine and I also
I'm
talked
just-
about that before
I'm
we
just
watched
saying.
Across the
Yep.
Spider-Verse.
Sometimes you guys got your little influencers or whoever
Yeah.
showing up to your.
They don't know anything about
your,
3D,
your
but
Real
we
D
do.
3D. We do, and
We
we're
don't lie.
probably more affordable than those influencers.
Look, I can tell you all about parallax all day long.
All day. Every goddamn day.
I can count pixels.
I can tell you how
saying.
deep a shot is if you want me to.
I can tell
Just
you whether
saying.
it's past the focal plane or not. So
Why weren't
Yeah.
we on the red carpet for the Little Mermaid 3D, asking the stars, "What's your favorite part of the movie in 3D?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "I don't know."
how many pixels was that hair separated from her hair, from the back of her
How many
neck?
pixels deep is this shot overall?
Yeah.
And Melissa McCarthy's like, "What the hell are you talking about? I don't know how to answer that question." I'm Ursula.
Yeah, and there's other formats like 4DX with the moving chairs. I'm not really into that. I saw Inception, and that was like one of the only movies I was like, I'm kind of good.
done that yet.
I'm into theaters that have delicious food.
Yeah,
If
right.
your food is good, that's what I'm
Yeah,
going.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, again, for me, it depends on the movie, and it
You
depends on
tell
what's
us what
available.
format you like. You
Yeah.
tell us what is your favorite and why.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We should talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay, I think it's time, you guys. I think it's time.
You think we can fit that in there in 7 minutes? I'm just kidding. We'll go a little over.
We're going a little bit over an hour. I think we can go well over an hour if we were
Yeah.
talking about this movie.
We are
So-
going to do non-spoilers first.
Yes.
We're going to give you our first impressions of the movie. We're going to tell you the things that we like, things that we potentially didn't like, and then we'll get into some spoilies after that. But yeah,
Here's the
I don't
one
know.
thing I didn't like.
Yeah.
It's not
Nothing.
in 3D.
It's not in 3D.
It's not
It's
in
not
3D.
in 3D.
That's it.
Why?
That's it. That's it.
Why is there no 3D version?
That's it.
Spider-Verse 1 in 3D is
So we were talking
good.
to
Masterpiece.
Wendy
Masterpiece.
from Movie Couple.
Wendy.
Shout out to Wendy.
Yeah.
She had never seen the movie in 3D. She
Mhm.
didn't
Oh.
really watch movies in 3D. And Adam and I were like, yeah, you kind of have to watch this in 3D, assuming that everybody knew
Yeah.
that the movie was out in 3D and how good the
Yeah.
3D is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, look, if you're not into 3D or if you don't necessarily watch 3D movies, I think Spider-Verse is my go-to
Yeah.
show people, to show people what 3D can do.
Yeah.
And
Did you invite
see an
her
amazing movie.
To my house to be like, just
No.
go to Hector's
Well, no,
house.
you know, well, it's funny
Not at
because
all.
while he was talking about it, I was like, we're gonna have to start inviting people for 3D
That's
screens.
I know,
And
dude.
then I told her that we want to do them, and she was
Yeah.
like, you guys need to talk to the real deep people. I'm like, respond to my
You're
emails,
like, we
please.
emailed them several times.
I'm about to follow up again.
Anyway, that's
Yeah.
my one.
Sorry, Miles.
But no, you're
disappointing thing.
right. And we don't know if they're getting a Blu-ray 3D release or
I've-
even
I've
a
s-
3D release in theaters.
I've seen online that apparently China, the
Mhm.
country, is getting a 3D version of Across the Spider-Verse
Yeah,
in theaters. May or may not get it in Australia. I'm going to
Okay.
do some research. I'm going there.
You're going
I'm
there.
gonna go
That's
find
right,
out.
you are.
Dude.
I'm going to go find out.
You gotta figure something out.
You
Yeah.
got to talk to Ryan Unicombe
There you
and
go.
have him sign a contract saying that if he finds a 3D version, he
But
will send 3 versions
Well,
to America.
Because there was the company in Australia that did the
Yeah.
3D Blu-ray for Spider-Man in No Way Home.
Yes.
So
But it was like Region B.
It
It
is,
was like,
but
yeah.
we can still get it. But
I'm hoping that with next month's Blu-ray release in
Mhm.
North America
mhm.
of Avatar: The Way of Water
Yeah.
in 3D, thank God,
Please
that it's
buy
like,
it.
okay, is any of that going to sell
Yeah.
enough to convince any of the studios and Disney, which owns Avatar,
Yeah.
that it's like it's worth it
It's
to
worth
invest it to print that X number of Blu-ray, 3D Blu-rays, and you get X number of return.
Mm-hmm.
Again, man, we've had this conversation over and over and over again, but it's like a dying format and a dying art. There's artistry involved. And there needs to be some way. I mean, I'm talking to the company Disney that just deleted Willow off of like,
Yeah.
this is the part of the depressing thing of like physical media versus not.
Just
and
laid
versus,
off 7,000 people. So
yeah. And the other frustrating thing is like they're putting it out in 3D, they're putting it out in 4K, and I'm like, why didn't you just do a combo set of 4K and 3D?
I know.
They did it with Alita Battle Angel. It's a beautiful steelbook from Best Buy that has 4K 3D.
We're reviewing Spider-Verse.
I know.
The
rails.
Listen, the reason we immediately think about this is because this film, non-spoilers, of course it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Of course it is unreal how dynamic this film is.
Yeah.
There's a sequence in the middle, and we'll talk about the specifics in a sec, that I'm just like grinning. Like, I can't believe I'm watching this. It is so hyperactive and beautiful, but still clear. And I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, I cannot wait for people to go through and pause this. I cannot wait for new rock stars to tell me every Spider-Man's in the background. Like, it's a joy. This movie is a joy. But on top of all of that fun fan level stuff, which I kept leaning over to Augustine, I'm like, that's from this, and this is this, and this is
there
that.
was one moment where they showed something, and Hector was like, that's from issue blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Despite all of that,
it's
a beautifully richer than the first film, deeper emotional story of Miles. And that's what we talked about. We're like, as long as Miles is the focus and it's his story, you know, all the extra comic book bells and whistles and all the extra fluff and stuff, like that's fun, and you can celebrate it, which this movie is, again, like the first one, such a celebration of all things Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That it's like, it's difficult to describe what it means to me personally as a fan of this. Like, it is such a beautiful gift. But at the core of it, Miles' story is so compelling and so great, and emotional and beautiful, and
and I agree with people that say it's kind of the Empire Strikes Back of movies, because just the way the story structure is built and the way it kind of leaves you, but it was just such a fulfilling watch, and at no point at all, it's I don't remember exactly what the runtime is of Into the Spider-Verse.
Guys, the first one was
hour 45?
Yeah, I think so.
And this one is like 220, 210.
That's what the guy said.
213,
yeah,
216,
but like I didn't feel it at all.
No.
It's so engaging from the moment that it starts.
Yeah, when the movie ended, I was like, that was got to be 45 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I thought there was going to be more movie.
And I'm just like, man, it's just so mind-blowing. Just the opening, and this, no spoilers, but the opening is so impactful and dynamic that when it goes to opening credits, you're like, holy shit, we haven't even gotten to the credits yet. And the credits are very short, but it just hits you at a 10 from beginning to end. And just the visual, just everything about it, it's just like you're just eating the best food you've ever had in your life. The performances are just
the
like
voice
at a
acting
10.
was really,
the animation at a 10. The design work at a 10. The score by Daniel Pemberton. And the entire soundtrack, a 10, 10, 10.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Shout out to the lighting in the film. The people
Jesus
that did the lighting.
Christ.
Gorgeous.
Who had anything to do
Anyone
with the
who touched
visual
this.
design of this movie.
Anyone who took a breath on this movie.
I was talking to Adam about this on the drive home, is that I wish I could sit down with somebody from the visual design team and them just run me through every single visual choice they made.
Yeah.
Specifically with some spider people that we see in this movie, because there was some people in there where that was just like striking. But overall, when we were done with the movie, we were sitting with Wendy, and she was like, you guys like this better than the first one? And I was like, I don't think you can compare the two right now.
You said, I'm going to wait until part 3 comes out.
Yeah, I can't say that I like this better than Into the Spider-Verse, because the story's not told yet. Like, I can't judge this movie right now because of the way it leaves you. You're just like, I need more. I need all of this. I was ready to sit down for 6 hours and watch the next movie.
The credits ended, and he literally went, I'm just going to wait here until the next movie starts.
I was like, I'm just going to wait here for a year and just sit here and watch it. But overall, they took the visuals to 110%. I thought Spider-Verse was something incredible, which it was. It changed the game for animation.
But now
it
it's
was a
going to be
game
like,
changer.
now it's like, oh, that's cute. Like now when we rewatch Into the
Seriously,
Spider-Verse,
when
when
I was thinking of scenes in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like of Into the Spider-Verse, right? And I'm like, that's fine, that's cool. But like comparing those scenes and those shots and the things that they're doing in this movie visually, I think that was my favorite part of the movie. Just the whole visual structure of this movie. And it's just they've cranked it up to 11 and it never stops. Like there's moments in which like even though it's a quiet moment in the movie, the visuals are still stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And they always have something to do with the emotional movement of the story at that point.
Oh my god!
Even
Like
scenes,
there's beautiful stuff.
even scenes in Miles's universe, which is, I guess, one of the more grounded.
Yeah.
You know, because when we go to like Gwen's universe, it's very stylized,
Yeah,
and of course everybody else's. But it even in Miles's normal Earth 1610 Brooklyn or Manhattan or whatever, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Him standing on a rooftop talking to his mom, like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's all helping for the
Aesthetically
emotional.
pleasing.
Right,
you know,
exactly. There's things that they're doing visually that just augment the story
Mm-hmm.
so well. I think Lord and Miller are telling the best Spider-Man trilogy ever told. That's for sure. Because
Easy.
Into the
And
Spider-Verse,
they're getting some of the best directors to do it.
yeah, best directors to do it all, but
Yeah.
just the idea and the foresight to come up with this kind of movie, which you said earlier, Hector, it makes you feel like how you felt when you were first reading Spider-Man. Like that's really the most important thing.
In your head and in your heart. Yeah.
And it's really boiling down the movie, the character of Spider-Man to why this character has endured the ages. Because it really is, like if you think
Agreed.
about the story, it's just
Agreed.
like this is why everybody loves Spider-Man and why he's arguably one of the best characters Marvel has ever created.
Yeah.
And it's being told in a way that's very creative given the whole spider community and the history of Spider-Man and just
it's kind of
all
meta,
these things
but it is
that have happened.
It is a celebration of the thing.
Yeah.
And I'll even go so far as to say I believe that Spider-Verse 1 and 2 and probably going into 3, these 3 movies, not just the best Spider-Man film trilogy, but I'm like, I think they may be
best superhero
movies, and I think they may be better than any Spider-Man comic. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like the comics like walked so that this could run. Like it's this thing. I'm watching this movie and I'm like you're saying, they're breaking it down at a meta level. They're telling you why Spider-Man matters, why people love him, and they're taking what came before, all the comics history, and being like, and now we're going to take it here.
Yeah.
And it hits in a way that no comic ever hit.
Yeah.
No.
It hits you emotionally in a way that you go, oh my God, like everything, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita, everything, Brian Michael Bendis, everything gets us to this point, and you go, I'm witnessing something so beautiful and so amazing that it feels like this is the best possible outcome that could come from people working hard and making comic books in the 60s, 70s, 80s, to get to now, and you go, oh, this is why they were making the comics.
Right.
This feeling.
And not even like not even them knowing that that's why they're making the comics, but just adding to the things that make Peter Parker and the Spider-Man great characters, right?
Yeah.
It's just like all of these things, because it's not just one thing, but they all have a common thread.
Yeah.
And so, I think the movie just it's doing such a good job of distilling Spider-Man and superheroes and just blending art forms and telling it so masterfully that like it just kind of felt effortless. And looking back on it, I just can't wait to watch it again because there's just so much stuff to pick up on, because the action is super quick.
Yeah.
And it's done so well
fun.
that
So
like
fun.
you really have to watch this multiple times to really absorb everything that's happening in this movie.
I stumbled across an artist who was working on Spider-Verse, and they were literally just working on keyframes.
Yeah.
When there's like quick changes between like the animation styles and the backgrounds change.
Yeah.
And it was a shot of Miguel just when he's like flying through the air.
Oh yeah.
And it's one keyframe, and then you watch it in the movie and it changes to like 8 different things while he's jumping through the air.
Yeah.
The amount of people that must have like worked on this
And work and layout
just
time. So the way I think about it is like every single keyframe or action frame or every time they change the design has to be looked at and approved by the director.
Yeah.
Like
that's why there's 3 of them.
That's that's
and
why
Lord and Miller.
That's why there's the whole team, right? But at the same time, the foresight to just tell the artist, okay, we need something to pop here.
Yeah.
Make it pop in this
and here's
sequence.
why, or
here's like pop, 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 pop. And then you're just like, well, first of all, where is this coming from creatively from these artists? Because it's insane. I don't think there's a single repeated like art style that pops in several times.
No.
I haven't seen the movie frame by frame in slow motion, but it's just, it feels so fresh and dynamic and new. Even though we've already kind of seen it in Spider-Verse, they've taken it up, like I said, to 11, and it's just It's a whole different
Dude,
beast, man.
the more we're talking about this movie, the more it's making me feel like maybe I do enjoy it more than appreciate. Because again, you think in some
totally
ways,
fine.
yeah, you think in some ways like sequels are almost easier
Right.
because you've got everything in play,
Right.
everything's been set up, but they don't go the easy route with
Right,
this.
right.
They challenge themselves,
Yeah.
to be like, we're going to make this even more difficult for us to
story level and a creative
at
level.
a story level and at the actual execution of everything that they did.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're like, we're not just going to have a new character named Spider-Punk.
Right.
He's going to look like this. And you
Yeah.
go, how
Dude.
here's the other thing I want to say before we get into spoilers. I really loved the movie Turning Red
Mhm.
from Pixar.
Mhm.
And that movie was Pixar really stretching themselves.
Pushing, yeah.
And they barely, like, it still feels like it's Pixar, but it's like, you could tell they're like, okay, but can we be influenced by anime a little bit?
Yeah.
And like, you know, like Northern California and Pixar may have been like, oh, I don't know, that's not really us. Like
Yeah.
we did Toy Story and Incredibles and A Bug's Life, and we have this kind of style. And with the new movie that's coming out that looks great, and I'm going to go see it, Elemental, I look at that and I go,
Same old, same old.
Pixar, you have got
It's the
to
same old, same old.
push
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
shit out of what you do.
Yeah.
Same with Disney
Yeah.
traditional animation. Same with there's something to be said about that classic style. The new Disney animated film that I saw a preview for in front of Little Mermaid live action is called Wish, and it looks gorgeous, and it looks like there's some influence of Spider-Verse stylistically, but it's still like a Disney princess and a classic Disney princess film, which looks great. Looks really, really, really cute. But I watch those and I feel bad because Elemental apparently isn't tracking that well financially, or like it has that much interest from kids
Yeah.
versus
I don't see anyone talking about
versus the
Yeah,
big
no.
IP things, which are Mario crushed it, and we all know why, because it's the biggest franchise in the world.
Because of Jack Black. That's why. That's the only reason why.
Going into Peaches,
Exactly.
going into Spider-Verse, and then the
Yeah.
next one this year is Turtles.
it. Mhm.
Yeah.
And these movies,
Yeah.
they're based. It's unfair because they're based on this existing IP, and studios like Disney and Pixar, although they did do a Marvel-esque movie with Big Hero 6 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But Disney and Pixar have always been like, well, we're the original. We're not doing an animated movie based on an IP. That's not what the industry was that they built. They're doing these original ideas. And I'm like, Pixar, Elemental looks really cute and really interesting and really, but you have got to like
Y'all need a Star Wars Visions.
something because
Yeah,
right. That's
for the
another.
mainstream.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's
Yeah.
another thing that's like blown our minds.
God,
The
damn.
past few, and that's associated
Yeah.
with Star Wars, which is another IP
Yeah.
thing. But I want to see the big studios that we love and grew up with succeed. I want to see Sony Animation succeed, and I think Sony. No, who's doing Turtles? It's Paramount or whatever.
It's Paramount, but it's I forget the name
It's
of the
a
studio that's
French.
doing
It's
it.
a
Yeah.
small French animation studio.
Great. I want
that
to see
they're
them
doing
all
it, yeah.
succeed, and I'm not just trying to prop up the franchises and IP that I
Yeah.
love. Let me tell you what I mean. Mario, I thought was fine. It was not like a great film, but it was Mario, and
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
like, they did Mario right.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse and the new Turtles movie, like they look incredible because these artists are kind of being let loose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying is like,
I was telling Adam on the car ride home again.
Micros Animation in Montreal.
Micros.
Oh.
In Montreal.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Well, Montreal and Paris, and Cinecite in Vancouver.
Oh, I see. Okay.
mhm, okay.
I was telling Adam that I think this movie stylistically, as much as Spider-Verse changed animation, the original
Yeah.
Into the Spider-Verse changed animation, because it did.
Yeah.
This movie is going to have more people looking at it that don't watch animation, that are going to
Mhm.
take animation more seriously, because they did some things in this movie
yeah.
Yeah.
that look like moving paintings, that look like, looking back on Into the
Mhm.
Spider-Verse, it makes Spider-Verse look very cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it just look like a comic book popped off the page. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I think
No,
it
because
was
set the
right.
set the trend or set the
It set
example.
the tone.
Yeah.
Like it gave us the rules to this universe. But now it's like it's been taken to a level which you can't ignore.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to put animation in the limelight as far as
I hope so. I mean, this
more people jumping on and using the
Yeah.
method.
this
to
could be best
create their
picture.
film.
This
Oh,
could be
yeah.
best picture, not
Easily.
just best animated film,
Easily.
but like best picture.
Oh,
Mhm.
easily. But
we-
once
can-
again, I'll hold off my thoughts on that until the next
Let's-
movie comes
Let's
out.
get into spoilers then.
Mhm.
Can we clap? Can we? Get out of here.
Go
If you haven't
see the
seen this
movie.
movie,
Go see it.
go
my
watch the
God.
movie.
I have a question for you guys.
Absolutely watch Into the Spider-Verse first if you haven't seen it.
In a minute.
Or if you haven't seen it since 2018,
Yeah.
for sure rewatch
In
it.
2018 or
anyways.
2019? 2018? I think
one of the two.
2018. No, 2018, because that was Infinity War.
Yeah.
Wow, 5 years.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you boys.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen in part 3? And we can get into spoiler talk.
Hanger
Ending. You think it's going to be Miles v. Miles?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so for sure. I'm just excited to see Spider-Punk, Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, the crew from the first movie.
I mean, it's going to
Peter
be
Parker.
nice to have the
Yeah,
original
they're
crew.
going to... So I was telling him, there's a moment where they're in Miguel's lair.
Yeah.
And right before Spider-Punk dips out, it looks like he maybe puts something on Miles, whether it's a tracker or some device so they can find out where he
Miguel
goes.
does that?
No, Spider-Punk does it.
Oh.
He puts some. It looks like he puts something on him. He like kind of smirks and then dips out. So I think like that's how they figure out like where he is, Earth 42.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna go there to try to rescue him. But yeah,
Okay.
I think it's gonna be them on a quest to find Miles essentially.
Yeah.
And then I think Miles is at some point gonna have to come to terms with is letting my father die necessary in order for the Spider-Man story legacy to continue, and he has to grapple with that.
I think we're at a point meta
Yeah.
contextually
Yeah.
in superhero storytelling that I think storytellers themselves have done everything with superheroes that now they're going back to the DNA, to the origin, and be like, but wait a minute,
let's break this down. Do we need this?
Do we need to have the parental sacrifice, or is that bullshit? Or can we use that in a story where the hero says, no, we do not need to have that, and I'll prove it.
Yes.
And if that isn't the most superheroic thing, and if that isn't the thing that we can associate with Miles Morales
it definitely
as
will
like
be.
he's being different than Peter Parker. Now, I don't want the story to resolve where then he convinces this Spider-Verse of characters, including, I think he's going to have, like, he's going to show Miguel the way. And I think Miguel's going to kind of come to the light side.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think Spot's going to get out of control, and I think everybody's going to have to deal with Spot.
Right.
But I think that I don't want to see the solution, because there's kind of time travel also involved. Is sort of what we learned, right? Like Miguel inserted himself into a universe right when Miguel died, so that he can continue to be the father. And and he comes from the year 2099, and they can kind of see at any point in every Spider person's timeline, right? They showed us like, or maybe it's just the past. I don't know, but I don't want there to be a point where Miles Morales fixes the whole Spider-Verse, multiverse, to be able to convince even Peter B. Parker, like, dude, you can go back and save your Uncle Ben, because that does kind of break.
Yeah, that I don't want.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
but
it's all about affecting the future from that point forward.
But the movie showed us through Gwen and her dad, he quit.
You mean Wanda?
Gwanda Stacy.
Dude, that moment where they embrace and the paint, the watercolors are just dripping. I was like,
down the back.
Oh!
Insane.
Tears.
Insane.
But I think that's going to be the solution. It's going to be like, it doesn't have to go that way.
Right.
Question.
So Captain Stacy and Gwen's dad will live. So there's a chance that Jefferson Morales could live if Miles could kind of get there.
I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I think that's where the story is going to go, and I think
sure.
Spider-Punk is the reason why a lot of this is going to happen.
Daniel Kaluuya is so good.
But
he's
I
so
will
funny.
ask you.
It's a metaphor for capitalism.
Exactly. Right? He's so
amazing.
anti-establishment that
Yeah.
he's doing
Of
his
course.
own thing behind the scenes and nobody was watching him.
Yeah.
Everybody was ignoring him.
Yeah.
But what does not having that traumatizing moment specifically for Spider-Man,
Mhm.
what does that do for Spider-Man? Do you think Spider-Man is the type of character that would have become Spider-Man regardless? Do you think Peter
Right.
Parker would have had the emotional intelligence or the emotional outburst or something
the
like that
understanding.
to really
Responsibility.
to really understand what something like that means? Do you think there was ever another moment in any Spider-Man's life where something could have triggered them to be that Spider-Man?
Mhm.
And I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I'm not sure of that, and I don't know if that's a question that we can answer now, or if we have to watch this movie 1st and have them show us sort of like a prototype of what that's like. Because at this point, Miles is the anomaly Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He should not have happened, as we learned in this movie. He should not have been there. And so, is he the only one that can go through life and say, "Hey, my parent didn't die, but he still had his uncle pass away," right? So that was still a thing. So can we have those superheroes without that triggering moment, basically?
I love that.
Right?
I think
I
that's
think
a
that's
great,
the big question.
yeah, I think it's a great thing for them to
Yeah.
explore.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think the fact that Miles did lose his uncle
Right.
is kind of proof that it's like he's already had his traumatic, he doesn't have to
Yeah.
lose his dad.
Yeah.
And I think that what it ultimately could do is this is the thing that could sort of set Miles apart.
Right.
And I feel like it's interesting because it's like, would Superman, if he never lost Krypton, would he
Mhm.
still,
Exactly.
if he had the knowledge that Krypton was supposed to explode and he was
Yeah.
supposed to be sent to a planet with a yellow sun and
Right.
that would he, I don't know, at age 30 willingly leave Krypton
to go to
to
Earth.
go to
To go
Earth
to
and
Earth and
become
just help this
Superman and
planet.
become the
Yeah.
hero? I don't know. Would
Right.
Batman still
Right.
be back? Here's what I will say. There's a great comic book that Marvel did years ago in the 2000s called What If Aunt May Died Instead of Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
And it's a one issue, and it's one of my favorite Spider-Man stories because the robber shoots Aunt May instead of Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
And what happens is Peter is so distraught by that he either tells Uncle Ben or Uncle Ben finds out that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And by the end of the story, what happens is they both become closer, and he
Yeah.
has his uncle, and his uncle becomes the guy in the chair.
Yeah.
And Uncle Ben
Mm.
becomes the Peter, you have to use your abilities
Mhm,
to,
mhm.
and he has this incredible force in his life.
Yeah.
That it's also almost like a what if Peter told his remaining parent instead of kept it from Aunt May or kept it,
Yeah.
from, whatever, which is also something I want to see happen with Miles' story. Like
Yeah.
we want to see him tell
Yeah. his
Rio and
parents.
Jefferson.
Yeah.
But the comic book that I'm describing is great because by the end of it, they show you a universe where Peter still became Spider-Man, and in a way, he becomes a more efficient version because Ben is helping him. He's like, we'll get a radio police scanner, and we'll do
Yeah.
this, and we'll do
Yeah.
that, and I'll follow you around in a van at night, and I'll help, and it's this amazing, like, oh, he was always these characters are always destined to sort of be who they are.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to like, to hypothesize, well, what if they didn't lose what if we took away their tragedy? Would they
Right.
still have that
Right.
thing? And I like the idea that a character would still be like, I'm still going to be good for the sake of good,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and maybe it'll be a little different.
Well, yeah,
but
I
Yeah,
think-
like if Batman's parents never died,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the event of potentially losing his parents enough of a trigger
Would he
for him
still
to decide,
train?
like, oh, I
Would he
still
still
want to save,
use his
you know,
wealth to try to
yeah.
help Gotham City, or
Right.
would he be
Right.
this spoiled,
Right.
like, I love that too. Like, were Thomas and Martha were they shitty people that it was kind of good that they died because
Exactly.
Bruce always thinks of them as saints. And then there's been some stories recently, even in the Matt Reeves Batman,
Mhm.
where they were like, Martha was like mentally ill, and they
Yeah.
like doing all this stuff to try to make it seem like maybe they weren't so great. And if they had stayed alive, Bruce would have been a spoiled,
Mhm.
wealthy
Right.
guy.
Right.
Right.
I think
don't know.
I think that's what comic book movies need at this point because I
Shake
feel
it up
like
a little.
I feel like we're in a moment in which we have these characters inspired by the movies, and I think there is going to be, just like Marvel has kind of like created its own parallel universe to the comics.
Mhm.
There's a moment in which the movies are going to have to make the decision of like, okay, cool, we've told all the really great Superman and Spider-Man stories and everything.
Mhm.
What are we going to do? Because
Yeah.
this character, there's still a lot to mine from this character. And I think that's what they're doing with Miles, is that they're setting up this movie to really kind of break that generational trauma of like
Yeah.
Uncle Ben dying, or like the only thing that can make you great is like this great tragedy.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's all very possible. Like, obviously those big traumatic events can trigger something in people, but also
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a moment that big in your life in which you decide that you want to be a better person.
Right.
Because it makes
Shouldn't lead to
making
that.
it makes making that choice seem so much tougher to do. It's like it almost echoes like making small decisions, like, okay, am I going to eat better today?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
like I can make
Yeah.
a small decision now that in 6 months might make me feel 1,000 times better.
Mhm.
And it's these little decisions that you can make throughout your life that can equate to something bigger, right? Like, I'm going to go to the gym once a week this week, and then
Mhm.
maybe twice a week next week, and then maybe 3 times a week the
Mhm.
week after that. And those little choices can build up to bigger things,
Yeah.
which should equally, like affect a superhero in which, like,
Yeah.
I have this Spider-Man ability, but I don't know if I want to use it. Maybe I'll go out once this week.
Yeah.
And like, oh, maybe like I didn't like that. Maybe I'll like try it in a different way over here this next week or something like that, you know?
Mhm.
I feel like it's making those big decisions feel a lot less daunting and a lot more manageable when you try to kind of break it down in
Mhm.
that kind of way, which is I think just another effective way to tell a superhero story. Like the fact that parents die to become a
Yeah.
superhero is never going to go away.
Right.
It's always going to be there.
right.
But Miles can update that kind of story
Yeah.
to a new
Right.
kind of character, which he is. He's like
Yeah.
the new person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even says it in the movie. He's like, you don't get to tell me what my story is. I'm going to
love
tell my
that.
story
Yeah.
myself.
Do my own
Damn.
thing.
Right? And so I thought that was
good. Oh, God.
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful moment. And it was like then at that moment he also echoes well, what's his name? Miguel echoes what his mom was kind of saying. He was like, you don't belong here.
Yeah, I know.
And his mom was like, you don't tell people
yeah.
you don't let people tell you where you belong.
you don't,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, this is like expert like storytelling and weaving here.
This one I think felt more like the mom focused one, and
Yeah.
I bet you
It did.
part 3 is going to be Jefferson's going to have a
Oh yeah,
bigger
absolutely.
Yeah.
sort of a presence. I mean, I think it was you that said it out loud, or like leaned over to Augustine during the part towards the end. I think you
Oh,
leaned over
yeah.
and you're like, his dad's already dead in this universe.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
that's what's happening.
And then I leaned in. I was like, Miles is the Prowler.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That the reveal to have the
Yeah.
mural, that hit me hard. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And everything that you guys are talking about, I think is going to be explored in the,
Totally.
well,
Yeah,
what would
I think
Miles
so.
be like without his dad?
Right,
We're
right,
going to
right.
find out.
Mhm.
He's the Prowler.
Yeah.
It would be bad.
That sucked.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. I think this
Yeah.
movie left so many like it was a
Oh,
good
yeah.
movie, but it left so many strings untied. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things
Can't
that are
wait.
happening.
Mhm.
I felt kind of when the whole Miguel and they were all chasing Miles and everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think about what Spot was doing because he was
Yeah.
now this ultra mega.
Yeah, it's like
Super
Omega level.
villain.
Yeah.
Omega,
Right, yeah.
for
He
sure.
was just like this giant destructive force, and we're not touching him at all.
Mhm.
And I
love
was
that.
like,
I love that.
you guys are all fighting, but Spot's like wrecking shit
Yeah,
over
I
there.
know.
What are you guys
know.
doing here? And nobody was even kind of talking about it though.
Yeah.
But as the movie progressed, I was like, oh well, this is
Oh.
kind of why. Like
Right.
they're really kind of building up the relationship between Spider-Man and all of these characters,
Mhm.
Miles and all the rest of the Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and also Gwen
Yeah.
and Miles, like kind of being in a really complicated situation.
Yeah.
Right.
That like, of course, you kind of have to focus on this before you get to like the resolution of what you're gonna do with a villain like Spot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that
Yeah.
the characters that were there were still big parts of the first movie, whether it was Miles's mother or even
Yeah.
Gwen herself. They took the time to do even more character work with those characters in this movie. It was
Yeah.
really cool.
Absolutely.
And to get an insight into Gwen's world and the movie kind of like starts in her world. I love that. That's so I don't know.
Yeah.
It
I
just
think
expanded what they had already done in the first
Yeah.
film so well.
I think Peter B. Parker, Jake Johnson,
yeah.
who's one of my favorites, is like his arc was the first film.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So I think
Oh,
this
yeah.
one, his arc is just continuing where it's like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm gonna be a good dad, but I'm like, you're kind of figured out.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
supporting character.
Gwen has stuff to figure out.
Oh, yeah.
Miles is obviously the focus.
Mhm.
I think Miguel O'Hara,
Oh,
Spider-Man
he's got a
29,
lot to figure out.
he's got a lot to
Yeah.
figure out.
Did you guys feel like he was a villain? Because I didn't feel that way.
I think he was a complicated
No.
antagonist.
yeah.
I
Totally.
think that he is
Some levels I'm
he
like,
is-
you're justified in why you think that
He's-
we should do things.
he's
the way
villainous,
should.
but
Yeah.
very justified. But I think that Miles is gonna get him
Yeah.
to understand.
Totally.
You know,
I think Miles is the therapy that Miguel needs.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
it's-
for sure.
It's going to show him that there's other ways of doing what he
Yeah.
wanted to have done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
even though he
yeah.
might have missed his point his time to do that
Yeah.
Mhm.
in his timeline, there's still a chance for him to better the life of everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and I think he might. I think he's gonna have like a nice big heroic moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here's-
100%.
here's the other thing I wanna say.
100%.
I think part 2 was beautiful and very emotional. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if anything got me to cry. I'll report
No,
back when I
it-
see
yeah,
the
it
movie
did.
a second
I
time.
got
Let me see the
definitely
movie a
like,
second time.
I think it's gonna get me. There was definitely moments.
Absolutely. I think was it Shea Wiggum who plays Captain
Captain
Stacy?
Stacy, yeah,
Mhm.
so good.
Anything with those
So
two,
good.
great. But
Oh
I
my
think this
God.
movie is also setting some stuff up,
Oh, 100%.
and I think part 3 is gonna
Yeah.
like hit you with some. I don't think we're
Yeah.
gonna lose Jefferson, but I think there's gonna be moments where it's like, Miles and Jefferson are going to have some reconciliation.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that, him bringing back Mahershala Ali to play this alternate version of Prowler, I think there's going to be some emotional stuff there. I think Miguel's going to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Say
Absolutely.
something. Oscar Isaac's performance is so good. Something's going to happen in part 3 that's going to make me cry.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that's going to hit with these great sort of like insanely epic and heroic moments. That's
with that Pemberton score.
That's what's going to move me to the tears.
I think what almost got me was the conversation Miles was having with his mom when she was saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I've had that exact conversation with my parents.
Yeah.
Because my parents have always been very weary of sending me out into a world where I am a brown man encountering a lot of spaces that I might not be welcome in.
Yeah.
College.
I've told you guys this before. Like, my dad would always check in with me. I didn't know this growing up or why he was doing it. Now I understand. But he would always ask me, he was like, hey, are you okay? Are people being mean to you? Like, have you noticed anybody like saying something? Not saying that like
why
watch out for like racist people.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was checking in as a kid, like, hey, are you experiencing any kind of like
Right.
And that came from a place of him knowing that and experiencing that because of his immigration to the US, right? And so I've had those conversations with my parents before moving out, or like, and in the transition period of like going to San Diego and like being on my own, where they're like, you are good enough to belong anywhere that you want to go.
You know what's crazy too is that the scene with his mom, Miles and his mom, you could look at that as just straightforward, universal teenager stuff.
It is.
But the fact is, she is a Latina and his son is biracial.
Exactly.
And let's point out the elephant in the room. They saw him chatting it up with a beautiful young white girl. And they're thinking, where is she taking him?
Exactly.
He sneaks out of the room, going into
He's
spaces.
late to everything.
Where's he going?
Yeah.
And is he being taken care of? And little did they know that a Mexican-Irish guy from the future is the one who's telling him you don't belong. And it's a very diverse and multicultural world he's stepping into. They go to Mumbattan, like Spider-Man India, which is incredible. But there's still this undercurrent, this theme of like, that's what she's taking care of her little black and brown boy.
Right.
That's what she's saying to him.
Yeah.
You're going to go out in the world. Okay, you're ungrounded.
Yeah.
You can go chase her. She seems very nice and she's very beautiful. But where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Where are you going? In Chelsea, New York? There's a lot of white people there. You know what I mean? Like, where in New York are you going?
Exactly.
What college? Are you going to NYU? You going to an improv show? A lot of white people there. Watch yourself.
The bit where he's like talk about going to school in New Jersey, and his mom's like, New Jersey, that's so far. New Jersey, mom.
You don't have a license? Well, that's because we're New Yorkers. She's never moving.
Oh my God. Just some of those moments are just so incredibly well done. Like
So
the movie
funny.
just hits on so many levels.
We have to talk about two things.
Yeah, we do. I know which one of them is.
Number one, the Spot pops into the Venom universe.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
With, I forget the character's name, but the woman who runs the convenience store.
Yeah.
Mrs. Chen, I think is her name.
Yeah.
How did we feel about him staying animated, but the scene was live
I
action?
loved it.
Loved
I thought it was great.
Well, I think what it does is it establishes the rules.
That's exactly. Because
no matter if Miles Morales crosses over into the MCU,
he'll
he
be
will stay animated,
right?
And vice versa.
If Tom Holland comes into the Spider-Verse,
live action.
It'll be Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
It'll be
live action.
So yeah, I guess you guys are right. Because a part of me would have loved Jason Schwartzman, who voices the Spot, to be in a suit and come through. And it's like, when these characters step into the reality of the world, they're that reality.
Yeah.
But
that's not the rules of this universe.
That's not the rules. But to go forward, when they started showing Tobey Maguire footage and Andrew Garfield, I was like, well, this is awesome.
Are we forgetting about the original Prowler?
Donald Glover?
That's the second thing we have to talk about.
Yeah.
So
holy shit.
So that was awesome. And that was, I feel very conflicted about this. Let me tell you why. I'm conflicted because to me, that's definitely the same character from Spider-Man Homecoming.
See, to me, that's not. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But to me,
because J.K. Simmons played every version of J. Jonah Jameson.
Right. But to me, I'm like, well, now you've teased me with that brilliance. And I love Donald.
Better deliver.
I love Donald Glover. That now I'm like, okay, in the next live action Spider-Man from Marvel Studios, I better see Donald Glover as the Prowler. But here's the issue. He's Miles' uncle.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm conflicted about. I'm like, I don't know if I trust Marvel Studios, and frankly, what could they do at this point with a live action Miles that would even
Spider-Verse
come
hasn't done.
close
Yeah.
to right? That's why I'm like,
Shamik Moore as
yeah.
Miles is so good.
What are
I'm
they
like,
going to do?
this-
Just do the live action adaptation of these movies?
don't
No.
do that.
No.
And at this point, I'm like, this may be the last time we'll ever see Donald Glover
I think
as
it is.
Prowler.
I think
which
Donald Glover's the type of dude who's like, I'll do it for this one shot.
for the
I'll do it
animated,
for the fans.
yeah,
I'll do it just for this.
for Spider-Verse
Yeah, this
because
is
it's
great.
Miles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I'm like, but now if they call him, and the rumors are the next Tom Holland Spider-Man live action movie,
Mhm.
they want to bring in Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
They want to bring in Charlie Cox. They want to make it street level.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. But I'm like, okay, if Donald Glover gets a call, they're like, hey, Donald, we would love to bring you back. We saw, obviously we know what you did. We were aware of you guys doing that for the Sony animated film. We'd love for you to be in that same costume and be Prowler. And he's like, why? Why would I go up against Tom Holland Spider-Man?
Yeah.
It's like, well, we set you.
Where's my nephew?
We planted that seed in Homecoming, and he it's like if he's not the guy, the main bad guy, or if they're not bringing in the nephew, it's like that's
What are you doing?
I don't want to force that.
Yeah.
Right? And Miles in these movies is so good. I'm like, for a long time I was like, hey man, when they get to Miles Morales in the MCU, it'll be 10 years from now and it's gonna be great. And now I'm like, I don't know.
Think they should do it.
I don't
honestly.
know what they could do.
I don't think they should do
Anything they do, I'm just gonna be like, that's shitty. It's shitty compared to the animated. I don't know.
I don't think they should touch it, especially at this point because these movies are
I think right now would be a terrible
these
time to do
movies
it.
are breaking so much ground.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
You can't do this. I think they could eventually get to him. Like my plan for Miles in the MCU was to have Tom Holland die,
Right.
and then have Miles take over at that
Not
moment,
controversial. I think it could have been a great story.
right? Which I think
Yeah.
it's more in line with the comics. We could go more the comics route with Miles rather than like into the Spider-Verse kind of situation. But the way they're setting up Spider-Verse, it's tying together all of the Spider-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
MCU, Sony stuff, whatever we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
They even tied in a Venom.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know
it's
what?
insane.
Here's a thought I just had as you were describing that, because you're right, Augustine. But here's what I'm thinking: Miles, animated Miles, is the what do they call him? The outlier. What do they call him? He's like the wild card, the unique, the anomaly. What if by the end of Spider-Verse 3, he's able to anomaly like change the thinking of what it is to be Spider-Man so much so that the Tom Holland version, who like frankly we might get a cameo of in part 3. Like it seems like that, it's like if there's ever going to be more cameos,
That's the one.
That's
it's going
like
to be
the
that. It's
ultimate.
going to be
Yeah.
Toby. It's going to be Andrew. Just a quick little pop in, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe Miles is going to change everyone's thinking so much that they will almost set up the fact that a live action Miles Morales young kid could exist in the MCU,
Mhm.
and that in the next Tom Holland Spider-Man, they'll almost pick up that baton, like something that they'll set up with like the uniqueness and specialness that is Miles.
Yeah.
That he is as much Spider-Man as any Peter Parker in any other Peter Parker
absolutely.
story, or Gwen or whoever, that it's like Miles may prove like we don't have to lose our uncles, and there can be multiple Spider-Mans, and I can break the rules established by Spider-Man, that the live action MCU can go, yeah, and here's Miles.
Mhm.
Like this movie is describing what Miles is so well.
Yeah.
They will pick it up and set him up, and he'll be like, just like now, because originally in the comics, Peter died.
Right.
But now in the comics, they're both alive.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a Peter B. Parker, Miles, but almost inverted.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Miles is still younger.
Still
Yeah,
younger,
but so
yeah.
it's almost like that. So
Yeah.
it's like,
And honestly, that's what I was thinking, because I know that there were discussions after the last Spider-Man movie, like, well, Tom Holland might come back and do another trilogy of films. They
Sure.
might do 6 Spider-Man movies with him. And I'm like, okay, that could work. And maybe in the 5th film, you could just introduce Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And then, whatever is the thing that leads him to become Spider-Man, you don't necessarily have to get rid of Tom Holland. They can
but he
just
could become the
coexist in the same
focus.
universe.
You know what else is crazy, dude? With these rules that are established, Avengers Secret Wars. You know who pops through a portal? Animated Miles Morales.
Right?
And
That
he's
would be
jumping into
seriously.
the action with live action whoever.
Yeah.
And there's animated, and it's Shamik Moore, and he's like, this is crazy. And then,
Yeah.
and he goes into his portal at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nuts.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Baby, let's
Dude.
go.
Dude.
I think that's very ambitious.
Yeah.
For these types of movies to set up, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's still a lot more legwork that the MCU would have to do in order for a
Mhm.
character, an animated character, to pop through the scene like that.
Yeah, you're
But
right. Ms. Minutes.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
Not
There's,
impossible, no.
It's just interesting how like Spider-Verse, the first one came out, broke the internet in half, like
Mhm.
cracked everybody's brain open. Marvel Studios was like, well, we're jealous. We want to do that too. And they
Yeah.
could do it with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. That's the advantage they had.
Yeah.
Or maybe these guys were prevented from using them.
Maybe.
Because as they were making the first movie, maybe Sony or Marvel was like, we're going to save that. That's too good. We got to do that ourselves. Now with this sequel that came out, Miguel commenting on, don't get me started on Doctor Strange and that little, like, he's almost commenting on No Way Home, like, okay, that was cute, ha ha ha, but we did it first and we're doing it better.
Yeah.
I wonder what Marvel Studios' response is going to be to this. They're going to be so jealous. They're going to be like, can we just share? Can we also?
Can we just be friends?
Well, yeah. And at one point, I have to wonder if Kevin Feige isn't just getting on the phone with Lord and Miller and saying like, okay, what are you doing in the third movie?
Oh, absolutely.
You
and
know?
They should.
How can we support it?
Oh yeah.
How can we support it? And absolutely. And I hope it's
agree.
less like, ooh, we're gonna steal some of that playbook,
Right.
but more like, dude, you guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Please keep doing this with Miles. It's all a celebration for Spider-Man. That's what they wanted to do with No Way Home, and they did do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and we talked about this too on the ride home. It's like the advantage of live action versus animation. Animation, you just make it. Live action, it's like you got to coordinate schedules. And can you fly to London? Can you fly to LA? Animation, it's just like, no, baby, we're just going to make it.
This is the plan.
We'll do it. Yeah.
where are you, Daniel? Oh, you live in London? We'll book a recording booth for you to
literally
go to London. You
Oscar,
stay there.
Oscar, you have a recording booth at home? Cool.
Yeah.
Do all your lines in your underwear.
Sure.
Do all your lines in the
Exactly.
underwear. It'll help the scene.
right.
Oh,
It'll help
you're
the
in
scene.
Egypt again, filming Moon Knight season 2, probably.
Yeah.
You can
Great.
record in Egypt.
Yeah,
I don't know.
record over
Yeah.
there. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is probably one of the most amazing films that we'll see this year.
Can't wait to see it again.
Definitely
Guys,
a
it's
movie that's
such
going to be a top
good
contender
year
for the
movies.
Oscars.
It is.
And they deserve all the recognition, all the love. And
Yeah.
if there's any animators on Twitter or any other social media, shout them out, give them love, and
I follow
respect
all the
their work.
animators on this.
Anybody I can find.
Yeah,
I really do.
Anybody who like puts up their animation on Twitter,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm following you.
Yeah.
I'm following
Yeah.
all these people.
Yeah.
'Cause they deserve all the credit.
Oh man,
Somebody on Instagram once replied to me and they're like, Hector, it's so cool how you just do like you grab like great art and you put it in your Instagram stories.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you do that? And I was like, I just follow as many of the artists I could find.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm on Twitter and somebody retweets something and they go, yeah, this is in the trailer. I worked on this shot on
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
in like instant follow. I'm like,
Yeah.
who are you?
Yeah.
Good for
let me see
you.
your portfolio.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the
Yeah.
movie. You're amazing.
I started
Yeah.
following all the animators who worked on Klaus first.
Mhm.
That's where it kind of started for me.
so good.
And then I started following all the animators who work at the Line Animation, which is an amazing animation studio. And then from then on, it just started like just any
Snowballing.
animators. So the more animators you follow, the more you'll get suggested.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it
so,
makes social media better.
Oh yeah, 100%. It makes my social media so much more pleasant to look at when
'Cause
it's
I'm
just
just
like these beautifully animated
like
things.
fascist. Ooh, that's really great animation.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Retweets.
I love that analysis. I follow
Yeah.
this one called Frame by Frame Animation,
Yeah.
and they like take a scene and they'll slow it down to like the key poses and the main frames and like the anticipation shots, and they'll take like old stuff too, like Fleischer cartoons, like old
Yeah.
rubber hosey animation
Yeah.
stuff, and then they'll break that down too. It's so
Nice.
cool, dude. It's so much fun.
I want to talk about how their use of the word canon made me so happy.
Oh,
Where
so
they're like,
great.
This is a canon.
So great.
This is a canon,
canon
event.
event.
At first, I
Yeah.
was like, I couldn't wrap my head around like what's the context of this word.
Yeah.
And then Miguel explains
Yeah.
it. I'm like, this is brilliant.
It's just
Yeah.
it's the same with comic book canon.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
if it's canon or
absolutely.
not.
yeah.
When they said like this happened, this is ASM 90 or ASM 90, where
Mm.
Captain George Stacy, and they're showing images from Amazing
Comic
Spider-Man
books.
issue number
Yeah.
90, where Gwen's dad died saving a kid. And anytime something happened with George Stacy, I'm like, I remember that comic. I remember learning about that as a kid and then reading
Yeah.
the comic. And then they showed the footage from Amazing Spider-Man where Dennis Leary died. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that Yuri Lowenthal voiced himself for a second from the Spider-Man
The video
game.
game. Yeah.
And I love, maybe my favorite is Josh Keaton voiced himself from the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I know you love
Yeah.
that cartoon.
Yeah.
It's a
You've
good
never
cartoon.
seen it.
Mm-mm.
The best Spider-Man cartoon ever made series. 2 seasons, brilliant. That was Josh Keaton. He had one line, and I was just like that
Yeah,
felt like
yeah.
that was for
He was
Spectacular
the little,
Spider-Man.
the little
Yeah, I know which
Spider-Man
one it
was.
was coming
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
that
the
guy.
Spectacular Spider-Man is such a great. I mean, they showed when his George Stacy died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they showed, or maybe it was his Uncle Ben. But the point is, it makes me so happy as a Spider-Man fan
Yeah.
that they're acknowledged. It's just kind of like Lego Batman when they go through all the Batman
Yeah.
versions. You know, this was you in 1966 and in
That's
1989
right.
and in 1992 and in 1990.
Miguel called the Lego Spider-Man
That
the
was
best
one.
of all of us, but he never showed up.
Yeah.
Is he gonna show up
in the third
in the-
one?
in
The funny
He
funny
must.
thing is, if he does, he's gonna be this big.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when Spot poked his head through, his
Yeah.
head was like he was like
Gigantic.
a human,
Yeah.
and it was like little Lego
it was
people.
normal
So like
Lego
And
proportions.
he's going to be the most powerful
he
Spider-Man.
might show up.
Oh
That
my
was one of the
God.
funniest. I love that part
Yeah.
so much,
good.
Such a
dude.
good part.
Because it's Lord
Yeah.
Miller,
Yeah.
the directors of the Lego
Yeah.
movie.
It's great.
God, I turned to you and I said, "There's going to be a kid who loves Lego so
Yeah.
much."
He's gonna-
He's
And
gonna-
when they see
This
that
is his
moment,
moment.
it is like an acknowledgement of your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That kid's gonna
totally.
go home and look at their little Spider-Man minifig and be
It's
like,
him.
"You're one of the best
Yeah.
ones."
You are the best one. You're the best one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because Miguel said so. All right, y'all. I think we gotta call this because we can talk for
Hour
hours.
40? Yeah.
So good.
Hours.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. I
Loved
think
it.
the moral of the story is absolutely, without question, go see the movie once, twice,
Animation forever.
maybe 3 times.
Animation forever.
And if anybody finds out where we can get a 3D Blu-ray copy of this movie
Oh my
eventually,
God.
Our
for
PO
sure let
box
us
is
know.
blinking up on the screen.
Yeah,
You can Send it
exactly.
to us.
Wow. I hope
yeah.
that they did it to release in some territories because this movie would be a pain to go back and convert into 3D. If they didn't do it
you just gotta
natively,
render it.
gotta
You have to
render it like
yeah.
now.
it wouldn't
now,
make sense to put a whole budget for a conversion. behind
now
this
my
movie.
goal is to become an executive at Sony. I'm going to
Yeah.
spend the next 30 years of my life, 20 years, 15
Uh-huh.
years trying to achieve that goal. And day one of me becoming CEO of Sony, I'm going to pick up the phone and be like, get me the 3D version of Across the Spider-Verse and
Re-render.
Beyond the Spider-Verse. Put
Re-render
those cameras back in
all
there.
of
We're
the
doing it.
Spider-Verse movies in 3D, please.
Yeah. Amazing movie. Definitely check it out. Check out all of our other watch-alongs that we're doing on our Patreon. Check out all of our reactions. We're going to come back and we'll be doing Secret Invasion. It'll be a really good time. I cannot wait. Oh, snap. This is one way to end this show. Check out all the content that we're making. Make sure you guys look out for the cooking special, which will be coming soon. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
I have the high ground.